Hey, YouTube. Got something special tonight. Let's do this.
Back to nature, climbing higher. Woods are thick, hiking alone. Hear a tree crack, loud as gunfire. Stops you cold, chill to the bone. Hear the crowding, turn to howling. Something's prowling just out of sight. Beast in the night. Beast in the night. The forest has fallen silent. The mountain's dark. The moon is full. Catch the black shape of a giant, 8 feet tall, unbelievable. Your heart is pounding, huge steps are bounding. Your hope is drowning in the fading light. Beast in the night. Beast in the night. Oh, hell yeah. Run for your life. Step it up. Your fear is growing, red eyes are glowing. You might die knowing those folk were right. Beast in the night. Beast in the night. Beast in the
And hey, everybody. Welcome to Squash Talk. I'm Pat. How's everybody doing tonight? We got a lot going on in a short amount of time. Yep. Robert says, Ernie? Who the hell is Ernie? He's the voice you just heard in Beast of the Night, man. He's the author, the writer, producer, singer, every damn instrument you hear on Beast of the Night. And he drew the picture. He's also an artist. Yeah. So, that's like all Ernie. So, what's up, chat? How's everybody doing tonight? Yeah, it is a cool song. Joe, you know why? You know who came up with the title for that song? the inspiration behind that song, even though Ernie wrote it, recorded it, produced it, and all that shit, you know who was the inspiration? This guy. This guy. Yeah. True story. True story. Might get to hear it. I've told it before, but since you asked, Lockbeard, what's up, dude? How you doing, man? Hope everything's like working out for you, bro. You're transitioning, man. I hope you're doing well, man. I think about you. I think about you, which is kind of weird, but I do. Hey B, how you doing? My friend B, who I only talk to here in chat, but yeah, hey, look, we got a good show tonight. We got some people coming in. We got maybe a surprise or two. So stick around. Stick around. I think it's gonna be a good one. And as usual, I mean, Lockbeard's like, look. I mean, look at this. Look at this. Look. Like Lockbeard is the most popular person in chat, dude. Yeah, you love surprises, Joe. Joe, can you get Vaughn on the phone right now? Surprise me. Surprise me. Just get him on the phone. Tim is here, but you guys know he's producing the show. Like he's useless? Question mark. I don't know. Tim, are you useless? I mean, like, why do I pay you to be here? Just, no flappy gums. I'm asking you a question. Just saying. Want a good laugh? Lockbeard says, ask me if I want a good laugh, question mark. I received a cease and desist letter via email from DDoS. You're kidding me, dude. Like, really? All right, DDoS, send me one. How did he even get a hold of you, Lockbeard? I mean, I'm not trying to like, like, look, your situation is what it is, and you know what? I kind of appreciate that. I've been there myself, bro. Lockbeard, by the way. I've been wanting to say this to you, and I never figured out how to say it in chat on your show. But let's dial it back for a minute, because I have something very serious to say to Lockbeard. So, bro, I've been there. I've been there, man. Like, for real. Been there. It's a struggle. It sucks. But, man, dude, do what you gotta do, bro. Do what you gotta do, Lockbeard, and make shit happen. But that being said, how the hell did he get a hold of you? Like, you know what I'm saying. And again, I'm not trying to like, I'm not trying to get in your personal stuff here on my show. I know you have no problem talking about that shit on your show, but I'm not trying to like talk about people's personal things going on. Just curious how he got a hold of you. I don't know. All right, so now the fun begins. So I'm gonna redo the show real quick. I'm gonna start the show over again, not with a long intro or anything. Just I'm gonna start the show over. Here we go. Uh, hey, everybody. I'm Pat,
And I'm Ernie.
and welcome to Squatch Talk. We are glad you're here. Ernie, how you doing tonight, buddy?
I'm doing okay, man. How about yourself?
I'm hanging in there. I'm riding this roller coaster we call life. But
Yeah.
you know how it is. Yeah, man.
Well, as long as you're staying out of trouble, that's good.
I'm staying out of trouble. My nose is clean as always. Um, I'm a vetted citizen of this wonderful community of Hall County that we live in, or I live in. You don't live here anymore, but yeah, man. What's
Well, it's good to be here talking Sasquatch. Thanks for asking.
well, I'm just glad, and this happened last minute, guys and gals. I just reached out to Ernie last minute, like I do. I don't know, some like uh, every 4 shows, I'll say, "Hey, dude, you want to come in?" And tonight he accepted. So technically, Ernie is the co-host of this show. He just can't be here all the time. So
Yeah, the absent co-host. Yeah.
yeah, right. Yeah. So I get to do whatever the hell I want to do when you're not here, and that's fine. I don't have to listen to your freaking opinions about
Exactly.
anything. You know.
Much easier that way.
Yeah, it's worked out. And Tim,
Well, no,
Tim says hey too. Tim says hey. He's glad. What, Tim? You're glad Ernie's here? Well, yeah. Okay, cool. Anyway, so Tim says hello.
all right. Yeah. I want to know. I want you to bring me up to speed on what's happening in the world of Bigfoot.
Oh wow, where do I want to go with that? And where?
Well, not Bigfooters,
don't
but
I?
Bigfoot research, like the Doug Hijack stuff, you know.
Yeah,
But anyway, hey, it's your show. I didn't know what you had in mind tonight. Anyway,
well, yeah, of course it's my show. But yeah, for the it's funny. Somebody was asking earlier. I played Beast in the Night.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, as the intro tonight, and
Oh,
in the Squatch Talk artwork, somebody was actually asking about the artwork. I said, well, it's the same. It's the same person that recorded Beast in the Night. It's Ernie. So Ernie is responsible for that artwork. Like that's his artwork with the Sasquatch and the microphone and the cup of coffee and
yeah.
the transmissions and yeah, all that.
Kind of the Larry King of
Right.
Sasquatch
Yeah,
broadcasting. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh God, Raptor. Okay, look, Raptor. Okay, I'll answer this question. Like me and Ernie are not researchers as far as like being out in the field. Ernie lives in a cabin out in the freaking middle of nowhere in the woods, so he's just there.
But I don't happen to. I'm not pretending to be there at this moment. I'm not there now.
Yeah, and he's not there right now.
I don't have fancy mirrors behind me,
Right.
anywhere in my cabin.
Yeah. But no, like Ernie and I do not like go purposely looking for Bigfoot trace evidence, or we don't invoke encounters. I think it's fair to say, because Ernie's out there in the woods sometimes. Usually, mostly, there's stuff going on right now where his life is kind of back and forth between city and rural. But
that is a recent thing. Yeah, for many years I've lived out off grid in a quite remote area.
And you do not invite them in. Is that correct? You don't invite them to come be around your cabin. Is that a fair way of saying it?
Oh hell yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
I would never. I hope I never see one around the cabin.
Right.
Truly, that's just my opinion.
Yeah. So,
but yeah. So I guess I'm a researcher if you consider that there's a whole lot of studying
Yeah.
involved in research, and most folks that anyway, I found myself in an odd predicament in '05 when I became interested in this phenomenon. And my best friend worked at the local library uh, and was able to have forwarded to my local branch everything within our state's library system on any subject that I wanted, not just Bigfoot, but the books from scientists that said it could, or, and the ones who said it couldn't be, excuse me, on and on and on, and all relatable kind of fields.
Right.
And all the while thinking that it wouldn't be long because I'm so brilliant. I thought, oh, how can this be? How can grown men that would risk their reputations, credible people too, like in the park services and stuff like that. So I thought for sure that it would be, excuse me, a short amount of time before something, swamp gas, anything could be an excuse for why people have these hallucinations. And the more I got into it, and a lot of this has been chronicled long before the internet came along, and it's not yet all on the internet just for free necessarily. The
Correct.
books by John Green, the early researchers, and all of the accounts and details of descriptions, behavior, the behavior of dogs around these things, etc., all documented long before the internet came around. And it's just been this weird big picture view for me, uh, being skeptical with every eye that I give it.
Yeah.
But every reasonable, if you were just going to prove, as many folks have said before, if you were just going to prove it in a court of law, you could already have done so, with
I
the
agree.
evidence that is there. So it's just so damn fascinating, and I want it solved. I want to see one, but not near my cabin.
Fair enough. So Robert Walker asks, and yeah, dude, things have changed since we first started the show. You can hear me okay, Ern?
Say again?
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Robert Walker asks, Ernie, how long has that cabin been there? Are you the first resident? So if you could give us a little history about the cabin and sort of your presence on the property, even going back further.
Well, the cabin is about 6 or 7 years old. Yes, I'm the only resident, and it's in a piece of private land, excuse me, in North Georgia, that I've been visiting and camping on and shooting, hunting, all that stuff for a very long time, since I was a kid. And so now I live in this spot. Did that answer the question enough?
Yeah. I mean, sure. As much as
So
you
I've been
want.
there.
Yeah.
I've been there for 6 years, living there permanently for 6 years. I just happen to now be not there.
Okay, so I'll say this. Like from what I remember about the early days there on the property, like there was a pine cone incident at night once. Could you tell
Oh
us
yeah,
about
yeah.
that?
Well, that was a very long time ago.
Yeah.
You'll have to forgive me. I guess we were in high school. Now this is my two of my best friends, and we're up on the same property I'm on now. And this was camping on a waterway that is that, Pat, as you know, has a history of reports along
Yep.
this one main waterway.
And that is true.
And it was quite a lot more remote than it is now, as you know, without
Yeah.
getting into detail.
Yeah, but back then, way more
So
remote.
there were only 3 or 4 of us that would ever go camping in this one spot that is, like I say, very remote. And pine cones would come in to camp at odd angles and velocities and bounce off of things. Now that happens naturally. Pine
Yeah.
cones fall, they hit branches, they bounce off the branches, they have different trajectories, etc. But it was just a little odd to the point where the joke was that these were drunken squirrels, they were out too
Right.
late,
Yeah.
or nobody knew why these things were falling. Now pine cones fall naturally, that's what they do. So there's no reason to think that it was caused by anything but this drunken squirrel or rabid squirrel joke. Was something that as I recall, was experienced more than once. So maybe on two different camping trips,
And this was at night.
different times, huh?
This was at night.
Oh yeah, only at night.
Yeah, that's kind of the kicker for me. It's
Mhm.
like,
Well,
well,
that's what John
it makes it more
Manchinski says
interesting.
happened to him.
Yeah.
John Manchinski's story is that's what was, Sasquatch was throwing these pine cones at him after it had crushed the tent down on top of him. And it's not the only, throwing rocks and pine cones, things that could hurt you, things that could just annoy you, is common in reports.
Right. And then,
So
yeah,
doesn't mean anything, but it wasn't until decades later when I got into Bigfoot that stuck in my head.
it came back to you, I guess.
Yeah, it's something possible because as much camping as I've done, I've never experienced that a second time. I mean, other than back then, I've never experienced that in any other campouts.
So, yeah, that's interesting to me because it goes kind of way back to the teenage days. But if you would, dude, tell me your version of the. So same property, guys. Just so you know, a little different location on the property. Arnie and I were camping one night. We hear this scream, and Arnie, tell me your version of the scream.
Well, my version of the scream is that you and I were talking. It was very late, or rather early in the morning, completely dark. Fire was dying out. We're standing up talking. I'm talking, and you're telling me, "Hey, shush, shush, shush! Can you hear that?" And I finally shush, and I hear in the distance what sounds like a raspy screech. And at a point, and it sounded like it was just holding the same note the whole time. And then at some point it sounded like there could have been one ending and another beginning. I'm not sure, like there may have been more than one voice at the same moment there for a moment or two, at the same time for a moment. And things like that always seem in our minds, I think, longer in memory. But if I had to guess, I'd say it could have been as long as 20 seconds. So that's odd because I never have heard anything, just even two things, hold the same screechy note for that long.
Big
ones. But in my description of it, and my memory of it, is that it wasn't a loud thing. And if I hadn't shut up, if you had been talking, I might have heard it, and you might not have. That's kind of my memory. Is it just the volume of my voice alone was enough to almost, well, I mean, obviously it didn't conceal it from your ears, but it did mine, at least in the beginning.
Yeah.
And I guess that's about it, right?
Yeah.
Once
My
it stopped,
version.
it stopped.
My
We
version's
never
a
heard
little
another.
different. Yeah.
Yeah, it was dead quiet the rest of the night. We never heard anything else.
Yeah. My version is a little different. It was definitely a Squatch, even though I didn't see it. I called Matt Moneymaker immediately, and I almost made it. I almost made it on the show because of that. So yeah, like you don't know what you're talking about. You just I talked to Matt Moneymaker. You didn't. Like I'm the important person in the room.
Yeah, yeah. Well, again, it wasn't anything that I had heard before or since, but um, I've listened to so many. I have heard so many other animals that make similar sounding noise. Um, and of course, barn owls. And I mean, again, the list of critters that make
Oh yeah, yeah.
similar
That
sounding
that
noise.
that was no barred owl. Like I can say that right off the bat, dude. Like that
And
was
well,
not
I
a
say
barred owl.
BARN, the real screechy ones is what I'm talking about. Um,
Yeah.
they
Again,
have a
big lungs.
real high pitched screech sound that some people
Sure.
call the screech owl. But anyway, the point is,
Screech owl, yeah.
I wasn't. I just don't. To me, it didn't sound like anything that necessarily had to be big. That's all I'm. That's
All
all
right.
I'm getting
Well,
at.
like I said, I'm just gonna smother it in Bigfoot narrative no matter what you say. Just
You're just
kidding.
gonna smother it in squash
Yeah.
sauce, huh?
Yeah. No, the truth is that Ernie, like whenever I tell my version of that, I pretty much always tag it as like I don't know what that was because I didn't see it. I
Right.
just like I did do my diligent research to, you know, for animal sounds and I can't match it. Uh I can't match what I remember hearing. But then again, Leon could jump in here and make me realize I didn't remember hearing it right or something like so it's inconclusive. And so that one I can't say Sasquatch, but I'm gonna bring Joe in. I think Joe's really excited to talk to you. I don't know why. I mean, you're just Ernie. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, so Joe, hey Joe, welcome to the show.
Hey man, I'm here
How
for
you
the
doing,
cake.
buddy?
I'm here for the cake, man.
Yeah, we
Hey
got
Ernie,
cake.
Hey guys.
man,
We
I've
got
heard a
cake.
lot about you, man. Now I'm finally being able to put a face with the name, man. Good to meet you.
Nice to meet you too, Joe.
Hey, I love your comment about the pine cones, uh, because I actually do have some extensive knowledge of squirrels, having hunted them a lot when I was a kid. So I know a lot about what squirrels sound like and what they can do when it comes to pine cones and nuts and stuff like that. Um, but squirrels have never thrown a pine cone in an arc.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
when
Right.
And
people
they're
want to
not
talk,
they're not busy at night.
yeah,
Yeah, they're
So
no,
not
only
nocturnal.
only flying squirrels that I know of around here are nocturnal. That's it.
Right, correct.
mhm.
Regular gray squirrels, red squirrels, those are daytime critters. And again, like I said, when somebody says, "Well, it was probably squirrels throwing those pine cones at you," and I'm like,
Mhm.
in an arc 40 feet away, or you know,
Mhm.
no, I don't think
Mhm.
so. I don't think
Yeah.
so. It's something with hands, so it's either Sasquatch or it's people. You got two choices.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
we the squirrel comment, of course, was just kind of a fun joke that we had about it. We had no reason we didn't know why. We just thought
yeah,
it was odd, and we
yeah,
had to chalk it up to just funny angles of bouncing off those hemlock branches. And I mean,
right.
this is very dense and is still a very dense area with hardwoods and softwoods. And,
Yeah, yeah,
but
Yeah, there's pines mixed in.
yeah.
yeah, oh
Um,
yeah.
I mean, there's
Uh,
always alternative explanations for things, and
But
sometimes they're
not
valid,
in an arc. You're right. You're right
right?
about that. I mean,
But
people don't.
they
I
don't
mean,
come,
uh, yeah,
when a squirrel throws something at you, it's usually fairly close to the tree, and
yeah,
it's almost pretty much straight down.
yeah, yeah.
They're not like Johnny Bench out there,
yeah.
hucking a freaking pine cone at you, And people told me, my very first, what I think was an experience with Sasquatch, even though I didn't see any of them. Part of it was pine cones being thrown into our camp. And so,
Interesting.
and we're in a clearing, so there's no trees directly above us where they're just dropping. These things are
Now that's
arcing.
very, yeah, that's
know.
conclusive right there.
That's
I mean,
very
you know
So they're
conclusive.
something.
arcing. There's a lot of other weird vocalizations and noises. Now, people will tell me, well, it could be, are you sure it wasn't just people messing with you? I'm fairly sure that it wasn't people, but can I say 100%? No, I can't because I didn't see anything. I
Right.
just heard stuff. And I just, where we were at just didn't make any sense for somebody to be stumbling around in the dark just to mess with three guys camping.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah,
but
that's an odd thing. That would be an odd thing unto itself.
yeah,
It's kind of like what happened to me with the wood knock thing.
yeah,
It's like it's more odd that somebody would come in and try and bang on a tree, 50 feet away from my campsite than
Mhm.
the reported behavior that we've all heard about for years about wood knocks,
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's like I
Exactly.
don't
And
know, you know.
Yeah, to this
yeah,
day,
and
I will
in the
tell you
history of
that.
reports.
Right.
Sorry, go ahead, Joe.
No, no. I mean, yeah, and I get an inkling of what you're bringing up too, Ernie, and I'll pre sage that with saying you're correct because I'm pretty sure I know what you're. But yeah, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that every time I hear a wood knock out there, I know exactly that it means there's a Sasquatch doing it. I don't know that because
Sure,
I've never seen it being done.
of
But
course.
you can make educated guesses
Mhm.
and educated assumptions based on other things too and patterns. Our brains are designed to connect patterns. Human brains, that's how we think. We connect patterns all the time. And when you have examples, if you take into consideration that this being or this species, whatever you want to say for the word, is a hominid, a bipedal hominid of some sort, primate. Well, yeah, we have examples of other primates that do those types of things. So, is it feasible to say that Sasquatch could be out there making these noises with wood knocks, whether they're doing it by hitting a rock on a tree or another piece of branch on a tree? Sure, it's feasible to say that they could possibly be doing that. Um, I mean, so the thing about, oh, you can't, when you hear wood knocks, when I hear wood knocks and I'm out in the woods and I know I'm the only one out there, do I get
Yeah,
excited? Sure, absolutely, because
yeah,
I'm
and
not I'm not sure, but the possibility is there.
yeah,
You
and
know.
back to the pine cones.
Mm-hmm.
That's a detail that has been described in reports since reports started being printed, filed, cataloged, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So it is something that correlates.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
There it is.
in the 4 decades that I've been investigating this, hey, brain bug. In the 4 years that I've been investigating, 44 decades I've been investigating this, um, I've had quite a few people uh, um, relate encounters, or, well, yeah, we'll call them encounters, even though during which they may have not have actually seen the source, but I've had people describe, especially if they're in an area where there's lots of pine cones being thrown at them, you know. So
Interesting.
I don't find that surprising.
Yeah.
So,
So
would
yeah,
you go
welcome.
as far as to describe a coniferous forest as Sasquatch habitat? I mean,
Um, I wouldn't describe it as the only. There's a lot of reason why they could possibly prefer heavily carnivorous forests, but
but
they're seen all over. I mean, here in New York, we have a
Wet
mixture
forested
of
areas
yeah,
with terrain.
yeah,
Hmm.
and we have a mixture of heavily forested area or heavily coniferous areas, but we have hardwoods and that interspersed as well.
so
Do and accounts or reports come from more heavily coniferous areas? That's a good question and something I should probably look up because I think there is a correlation there. I think it does happen a little more in areas like that, and there's various reasons why it would be.
So I was just trying to see maybe we could build a profile of the ecology based on where the sightings take place. You're talking a lot of sightings in old growth forests. So what kind of organisms and resources are available in that kind of region, and how feasible would it be for a large primate to thrive in that kind of environment?
Right.
Well, of course.
Well, yeah.
mean,
What do you, Ernie? I know you have opinions on that, Ernie. If you could answer Brian's question.
Well, what exactly was the question again? Would they be mostly in forests?
Yeah, yeah. What type of environments typically are they seen in, or the encounters happen?
They're seen in all deeply heavily forested with high rainfall, typically 60 inches per year or
Yeah,
greater.
moisture. Hmm.
Yeah, and if you can start overlaying these maps and what you just said about old forest or old growth world, also ancient, which there's not a ton left in this part of the country, but if you look for a map of ancient forests, it will all remain in areas where they've got this rainfall, and then you'll see just the main forested areas, and then you'll see the Bigfoot reports. And if you just want to look at the United States or North America in general, you'll start to see all of these geographical correlations that are, of course,
Yeah.
occurring because of the ecology of the area. So yeah,
there has to be resources.
they're not seen out on the plains of Nebraska, you know.
Right.
Right. Yeah. Nobody's seeing Kansas.
Right.
Yeah. Nebraska.
As a general rule, like we always say, there's three things that they're going to need and have to be present, and that is food, water, and shelter or cover. And you're only going to get that type of environment in heavily forested areas, mostly mountainous too.
So let's add a
terrain.
caveat to that, because it doesn't just have to be food, water, and shelter. It has to be isolated food, water, and shelter, right? They cannot, in order for a population that spread that wide across the country to sustain itself, they would need to be able to stay and not be exposed.
You mean
to,
remain elusive?
Yeah, right.
No, you're correct. Yeah, they would mostly
lots of deer and maybe some vegetation.
Oh, I bet it's mostly or a lot of vegetation.
Yeah,
it is
if we assume they're omnivore,
a lot of vegetation. Yeah. And supplemented with as much meat, protein.
There's deer everywhere. Everywhere they're seen,
the woods are full of everything it needs. Yeah, the woods are full of everything that a critter like this would need. Just about anywhere that a black bear habitat can be supported. Black bears are supported with that type of habitat.
It is. It's pretty much black bear.
You could immediately presume that. You could immediately presume that a similar body-sized creature or greater.
That's an interesting comparison with the black bear.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty much black bear habitat.
I think that we could. There's something to unpack there too, though, because black bears are almost. You could almost say that in national park areas and stuff, they can become problematic because they get to. And black bears aren't dumb. Bears aren't dumb in general. They're really very intelligent animals and good at problem solving, and they know who they can go be around and who they can't. They know to hit the road when dad comes out with his gun, but they'll be just fine with everybody else. But they still tend to become problematic, and we see this with other intelligent animals too, like elephants in India. They put up fences, they try everything they can, but the elephants keep raiding their crops. And I can't for the life of me wrap my head around the thought of something this big and that would need that much food every day. We're talking about a large primate, right? As much food as they would need every day to sustain themselves, that they would not be so tempted into, especially with the Anthropocene extinction going on, with all the natural resources kind of dwindling down, and all that they're left with would be crops, would be human crops. So how are we not seeing them as a problem agriculturally, that where we're seeing them raiding fields and things?
Well, sometimes they do. It depends on, like here in New York, you have
livestock.
you
but
have
not crops.
you have a lot of agriculture along with a lot of forest land. People don't realize how much forest is actually here in New York. And some places where those forests abut against agricultural areas, they are seen in
Yes,
cornfields,
they are.
picking corn
Yes.
and eating it.
Yeah.
So I mean, there is, and you have to realize too, yeah, to as far as wanting to stay away from us and be elusive, they would tend to be more in the areas. Like, for example, I think, and I have no way of proving this, it's just an assumption that I'm making, that I would think that if there's any size of a population of these things in New York, I think about a good 60% of them are probably in the Adirondacks, which is a very remote region.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
It
we
is.
are constantly encroaching more and more into these areas, and so we're going to be encroaching more and more on them. They may start changing their behavior on some things, whereas
I
they may
think
have
it's
never
worth
been used. Yeah,
I think it's worth interjecting that no, yeah, Sasquatches don't have to come in to an orchard or a cornfield. They come in because they can. It's there.
hmm
They are in no sweat of having to run out of any resources in the woods, regardless of any development that's going on right now. It's worth saying that just one black bear can come in and ruin one person's garden. But people that live off grid with big gardens in one night,
yeah.
in
So-
one night, and that kind of thing is talked about and is reported by people that have gardens that live in heavily wooded, remote areas.
But there's
But it's
entire
just worth saying that they're not seen now in the cornfields because they're starving and can't get a deer. It's because the corn's there; they can just walk right up and get it. So that's
so
all.
I would say I'd have to push back about the forest being the forest habitat being sustained, because there's a lot of, I mean, if you look at a map from even 40 years ago compared to a map of now.
Oh, I understand that
growth
part.
forest
I'm in
is-
agreement with you.
Yeah.
No, I'm in agreement with you there. I just meant that for the time being, I can't imagine that. Well, again, we don't know what kind of impact we have had on alleged species if they exist. If they're there, we can't know for sure. But you're right. Obviously, no animals out there have as much forest anymore. So,
Right.
but we're talking about something that has to be so intelligent it hasn't been officially caught by us yet. So that means it's far more intelligent by a mile, by a galaxy compared to a deer's intelligence. So it's a completely different model. You simply cannot look at any other, animal's habitat and go, well, because this happens here with black bears, we know that must be. Well, no, not necessarily. Black bears don't have thumbs. Black bears, can't bang and communicate with code and all those kinds of things. So anyway, I'm getting off the point.
I love this. Thank you. I don't mind butting heads about some stuff. It's always fun as long as everybody can be chill and we can butt heads about this and that. Yeah. I love it. As far as I wouldn't say a bear is a 100%, as Pat was saying. it's they would fill the same ecological niche, but they wouldn't necessarily live the same lifestyle within that niche.
Right.
Because a bear is a bear, and it's they are a apex predator, and they push back, they push hard against humans. They know that they can kill us. Bears do. Where you're talking about something that's more intelligent and saying, yeah, I could kill a person, but that's gonna hurt me. There's more humans that are gonna come for me.
100 more.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
I can get that, and I can understand something intelligent like that, and that's why I brought up elephants, because they are like hyper intelligent, and they understand
Yes.
humans and see us, and they don't have thumbs, but they have like a little thumb on their trunk that makes it able to manipulate things. They can open like latches and gates and stuff. They can open doors.
Yeah.
Elephants are and they are huge animals that still can remain. I mean, if they don't want to be found by people, they know where to go in the forest. Elephants are amazing, and I think that they would be a more apt comparison than a black bear, other than their niches are isolated, but they haven't always been. There's been elephants in temperate climates, in forests, in coniferous forests. So
They even have elephants in deserts now.
yeah,
I didn't
Oh, yeah.
never realize that elephants could live in deserts, but they do have some elephants that live strictly in the desert over in Africa. I was amazed.
Like naturally.
Yeah.
Naturally.
well, there's some desertification going on there. There in
Well,
North
there
Africa
always
too.
is. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
It's-
just a natural thing. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I mean, things are getting hotter everywhere. We're seeing with climate change. We and I won't try not to get too much into that, but we do see desertification. That's another thing that. So I was out in Arizona, and I saw this. They had like one of those little Sasquatch shops that you can go into where you can buy stuff like the statue you got there behind you, Joel. And
Oh yeah. He's pretty popular.
yeah.
Yeah.
And they were talking about the Sasquatch down there in the high desert. So I mean, they're seen or they're reported in lots of variety of environments too.
Yeah,
Oh,
and you
yeah.
know, I mean, a lot of people don't understand my skepticism of that, since I profess that I know that these species exist. I will be one of those people to say that. Everybody knows that I have my own encounter story, and I will stick with calling it a story because I did not get video of it, so therefore it is always just a story at this point. But I don't see, like, I'm with Ernie, man. I mean, I don't, if they don't have a certain type of environment, I mean, not to say that they couldn't adapt to something.
Well, but
I
he's
just
right
don't
in
see
that
him in desert.
there are smaller numbers of reports, but yes,
Yeah.
they are reported in desert settings.
Yeah.
does happen.
I don't see how they could exist there, but
I don't either.
maybe they've adapted if they are there.
Yeah, well, there are always nighttime sightings for whatever that's
Right.
worth. Every time I've heard one described in a desert setting, whether it was,
Yeah.
the flatlands in Arizona, etc.
Well,
There
You
there
know, and
obviously
you got to
are
think
mountains
that,
that you can get to, and we're not talking
Yeah.
the Sahara, but
Yeah.
we are talking more desert environments, and it's always at night, never in
Yeah.
the day.
Yeah.
and I mean, you think about it, we ourselves, you might as well call us one of the top primates on the planet. We've managed to adapt to all these different environments. So, but
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't know.
Through
I
artificial
guess,
means, though.
there are some places in the desert you could stay pretty elusive, man. I mean, so
Hey, we have a presence in Antarctica. We're a pretty special primate, I think.
yeah,
You
Yeah.
know?
yeah,
But
Oh, yeah.
you would get into things like shelter building and crafting clothes and stuff, but to maintain that. Before that, we were
Of course, yeah.
pretty well isolated to
Yeah, these things,
Equal
dude,
area.
they don't wear clothes. I can tell you, Brian, that not one person I've ever heard of, and one wouldn't matter. I would need like 100 or more, but no one's ever seen them in a loincloth
yeah.
or even like a fur. You like like an extra like
Well, that's
someone else's
not
fur.
entirely true. There are reports of that, but they're
Yeah, I
very
know, but
few.
I would need like thousands or hundreds of reports,
Right,
not just one or
right.
two.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Well,
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
tool
So,
use is something that's reported though, isn't it? Or is it?
Well, that depends on how you define tool use.
Well, I mean,
yeah.
come on.
Yeah.
We see primates and birds tool use. I mean,
Yeah.
we see
Mhm.
monkeys using
Right.
pointed sticks and
Well, if indeed Sasquatch does do tree knocks, then that would be a sort of a tool use in and of itself.
Yeah.
More than
Um,
likely, unless they're
um,
using their knuckles to like in a
yeah,
hollow spot. Like I mean, we don't know. We don't see
right,
them doing
right.
it.
We
That's the
don't, right.
problem. Yeah.
But as far as tool manufacturing, nobody's come up with any evidence of that yet that I know of. Doesn't mean that
No.
they don't do it. Again, you do have the saying that lack of evidence is not evidence of lacking. Absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. That's the saying.
Yeah.
Just because we haven't found it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It would help, to further things along if we could find these things. But so far, I mean, I think the most important thing is like Thomas Steenberg says, we still, we could think about all these other things, but we still haven't answered the one question that the one thing that needs to be done first before we try to answer a lot of these other questions, and that is, do they really exist?
Mm-hmm.
And nobody's proven that yet.
I agree.
So
I agree.
that's still step one. I mean, as far as I'm
Yeah.
concerned, I don't need any proof. I've had my proof, but that's my personal proof. That's not proof that I can show everybody, so I can't use that as evidence.
Yeah.
well, I
You
haven't
know?
heard your story, Joe, but I would be interested in hearing it.
He
But
saw it. Brian,
Uh,
he saw one right there in front of his face.
15 yards away. Yeah.
15 yards away, clear as day. Wasn't a bear. Couldn't have been misidentification. It could have been a hallucination. Like,
I don't
but
think
why?
so, but it could have been.
But why? But why?
Yeah,
Why did
right.
Joe hallucinate that?
Right.
did you see it straight on, like it looked at you, or like it was?
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
absolutely. It was staring right at me.
No.
It was hunting
And-
a deer, as far as I could tell. And somebody that I've been researching with kind of pointed out some more stuff in that area that I totally missed when I was out there. Basically, I had really stumbled into reason why the deer was probably where it was at the time and why he was where he was at the time. It was actually a choke point right there. There was only one way into that area and one way out. And
how tall was it, Joe? Roughly
about 18 inches taller than me, which put it around 7.5, I guess, right around in there, because I'm
Male?
5'10". I'm 5'10", so it was at least 18 inches, 1.5 feet taller than me.
Do you think it was male?
I think so. I didn't see any breasts.
Yeah, no breasts. So yeah,
Okay.
he didn't see a pinga or
What was the
anything.
landscape?
I wasn't really looking for that either.
What was the landscape like? What kind of forest?
Oh,
were
it's
you in?
heavily forested where I was at. Yeah.
Deciduous, coniferous.
A mixture. A mixture.
But
But
what?
softer, newer growth.
No, not all of it. Some of it's pretty old growth.
You deep
but,
back? Were you deep back in the old growth, or were you more?
no, I wasn't really deep in the old growth. No, where I was at, I would probably say is, well, it's growth within the last 100 years at least. So it would be technically new growth at that rate. I think within the last 100 years, I think you could consider it new growth, really,
I
because
think
it
you're
has
right.
been.
Yeah.
There's evidence that there has been logging in that area.
Yeah, logging.
Like
Yeah.
a long time ago, but
Might be some big old oak trees, a couple hundred years old, just sparsed in between there. You say, and then
yeah, there's plenty of trees.
You were on so you saw 50. You were able to see 15 yards ahead of you. So you were like on a game trail, or
well, it wasn't ahead of me. It was to the side of me.
Okay,
Was it
on a
clearing? It was a clearing, right?
No, there was not a clearing there. I was walking through the woods. I wasn't even out there to do anything, and I've told this a billion times, but I'll tell it for your benefit, a short version of it. I was just out there to get a hiking stick that I'd left out there like a week before, and I knew I left it leaning against this tree, and I knew it'd still be there because nobody goes where I go in there that I know of. And so I was just going back there and walking down this trail. this deer was maybe 20 feet ahead of me, laying in some really tall weeds. And I looked right at it and didn't see it laying there, and took a couple steps, and it jumped and scared the hell out of me and took off to the left. I heard a scream, something that sounded like it hit a tree next to me. So I assumed it threw something, but I can't swear to that part. And a scream again. And I looked to my right, and about 15 yards away through the tree, there he was standing there just looking at me. And I took my buddy Mike, the guy that I've been going out there, I took him out there and showed him exactly where it happened. And like I said, he explained a lot of the stuff when he started looking around. And he said, you know, this is one of the reasons why that probably happened that day and why that situation, you know, but that is neither here nor there on my thing. But yeah, he was just standing there looking at me. Didn't make another sound at all. Just stood there breathing. And I just pretty much did one of these numbers and was like, whoa, not here to fuck up your day. And took 3 really slow steps backwards and kind of turned a little bit because I was heading back to my Jeep as long as he was going to let me go. He wasn't moving. And I kind of had him in my peripheral for a little bit. Eventually, I had to take my eyes totally off and turn my back totally. And off I went to my Jeep, got out there, and
So you never saw him actually move, just standing there breathing. Just
no,
kinda-
he didn't move at all. He didn't move at all. He was just standing there looking at me with kind of a pissed off look on his face, I guess. But
What time of year was it?
I was well, what I guess it would be considered late summer because it was in August.
Okay.
Yeah.
Uh,
I don't remember the exact date, or day of the week it was. But it was the second part of August.
you don't have to give me the address or anything, but can you tell me what area it was in?
Yeah, it's in a county about 45 minutes away from me in Allegheny County, New York.
New York,
Okay.
upstate.
New York. Okay.
Yeah, upstate. Yeah, I mean, yeah,
Up by that. You were talking about the Adirondacks earlier, so up around that area.
Yeah, that's northeast of me. Where I'm at is what's considered Western New York, and I'm
there's
in
a
the
lot
southern tier.
Yeah, there is a lot of there's more remote areas in New York State than you would think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The upper
yeah.
New York is just forest is almost like a western state and how forested and sparsely populated it is.
Yeah, they have moose. There are moose in upstate New York. Moose.
You get wolves too, don't you? Don't wolves come down?
No,
timber
we
wolves?
used to have wolves, but there hasn't been a wolf seen in New York in a long, long time now. I think at one point I heard, like several years ago, something, I might have read something, I think it was, that they were thinking about reintroducing a pair, but I don't know if that went anywhere or not. I haven't heard of any wolf sightings here. Heard of panther or cougar sightings, though, which they say aren't here, but
mountain lions or
they're
up and down the eastern seaboard.
I've seen cougar tracks.
Well,
I had a neighbor of mine show me.
You're going to get me talking about that, and then we won't get back to Sasquatch at all because.
But anyway,
every time I come on here, I end up talking about eastern cougars because I find that there's a lot of correlation between the way that they're reported and the way that Sasquatch are reported. At least in the eastern United States, there's a very there's like a strip along the forested or swamplands in the southeast, and then the mountains, the Appalachian Mountain area into the Carolinas and Tennessee and that area where you see a lot. That's where you see eastern cougar sightings, and that's where you see a lot of these Sasquatch sightings. But what I guess I don't know how you all feel about the whole Florida skunk ape thing. Is if that's a different phenomenon.
It's hard to
I don't
say,
think it's
Brian.
Different phenomenon. I think it goes in with this. I'm not sure what a skunk ape.
Look,
could be a different type. I don't know.
There very well could be this same
species, just adapted differently.
Let's say,
different phenotype of the species, like a different genetic population, maybe.
It would,
kinda like you
yeah, it
see
would almost have to be. I mean,
maybe
But that would
chimpanzees
go
and
along with the
bonobos
panther
and
thing too, though, because Florida panthers are a distinct genetic population. They're a distinct phenotype and very
yeah.
different from the rest of the cougar population of the country.
right.
That's
Yeah,
interesting.
and that gets into your latitude thing, which is common with any species. The
Yeah.
sort of the
Ber-
higher the latitude, the bigger they get, right?
Bergman's
You know?
rule, yeah. Or
Yeah,
just Bergman's
yeah,
rule.
Berkman's rule.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you this, Brian, and I'm pretty much like hard line in the sand on this. Is that if they're in Florida, they're trapped there. There's no way out. I don't see a path for them to migrate or move or relocate out of Florida. I don't see it. If somebody can find it, show it to me. You know,
That would genetically isolate a population too. That's
yeah,
and that you see that again with the cougars, and there's also you get the further down into Florida, you get there's isolated into groups of not subspecies, I guess, to be of the raccoons, but in deer, the Keys, they have their own distinct smaller species. So
Mm.
Florida is very isolated. It's very island like. You're
Very
definitely
much,
right
yeah.
about that.
Mhm. And especially for like a undiscovered, upright walking primate. That's why I say for anything Bigfoot related or species to that kind of thing, like I just don't see how they could ever get out of Florida and travel up through the coastal plains, which are fairly wide open, except for some major river tributaries. But even then, man, I mean, like if they're in the Appalachian Mountains, where I'm at now in North Georgia, where the
Mhm.
Appalachians start, well, technically, dude, they could go 1,000 miles up into Maine, and never be seen.
Yeah, they could hit Canada from and
Easily.
walk like right alongside like the Appalachian Trail.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, and the Appalachian Trail is only a teeny tiny little line through the
Yeah.
Appalachians, dude. The Appalachians are 100 to 300 miles wide, all the way up to Maine. So there's plenty of remote area for them to travel through in that corridor. But Florida, up through the coastal plains to even try and connect with that, you're talking 400 miles, 500 miles, 600 miles of flat open areas.
Stop it.
I just don't see it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know what? That's the thing too, man, is that when it comes to migration and stuff, I don't know how far they travel. There's a lot of things I don't know about them really, but just getting a good look at one didn't give me all those answers.
Yeah, right.
That just told me what that one looked like. But feasibly, they could travel because Pennsylvania gets a lot of reports too. And especially around Allegheny, feasibly they could actually, if they wanted to, migrate from here to the Catskills, all the way across the state and pretty much stay within forested areas just by going along the Finger Lakes Trail.
Pennsylvania's like New York. It's got a lot of backwoods country that people don't think about when you think of Pennsylvania either.
Right.
It's the biggest black bears in the world. The biggest American black bears in the world are in Pennsylvania because the resources there are so good. Yeah.
Really?
And some of them end up here too. Most of the black bears I've seen here, which haven't been that many. I've seen a lot of tracks and a lot of scat, but the animal itself I haven't seen that many times. But the ones I have seen, they don't tend to be that big, really. I mean, bigger than I want to mess with, and I'm glad they go the other direction when they see me.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're not huge. But
I think
there
that's
have been
because
cases
the young males
big ones.
travel. So the young males, because the areas that their mother lived in, there's already a dominant old male black bear that lives there usually. So they push them out, and they go, because we get them even over here in Western Illinois. We get wandering black bears down from. They don't usually come down this far, but we'll get one or two every few years that'll come down here and show up on the news. We get cougars too, but they're migrants. They're not the indigenous eastern cougars that used to live here.
Right.
But they're here looking for those cougars because that's where that's how the species, that's how they keep their genetic diversity, by intermingling that way over these long distance, but just on the margins like that. And now the males are coming down here looking for these eastern cougar females, and they're just not here anymore. I don't know how I got on this topic. I'll derail everything talking about different
Cougars.
Yeah.
No, it's okay. I mean, I think there's an interesting correlation, Brian, and one of the most interesting correlations is that from me to Joe, so I'm Georgia to New York to Pennsylvania, we, for whatever reason, the wildlife officials always just default to they're not here.
Yeah.
Cougars,
Yeah.
mountain lion.
Not here.
That's what we call them down here is mountain lion. Same species.
Yeah.
The wildlife officials will always, and I cannot figure this out, they will always default to they're not here. There are no mountain lion around here. And you could have take a video of one walking up to you and petting it, and they'll still say they're not here. And so it's very bizarre for a known species to be denied. I'm not sure what's up with that.
I wonder if it's because they don't want because they wouldn't want to
alarm people.
Yeah, but
well, you should know that there could possibly be a mountain lion in your area. I mean, black bear can be very dangerous if they want to be. I mean, what's the difference? I mean, really, except that mountain
they do that with black bear in areas too. They do that with black bear here. They're like, oh, they aren't here, and then one will come and they'll be like, or we'll find one and they'll be like, okay, so it's a traveler, but they're no stable population.
And again, there's a difference between, say, if I saw a cougar in the Adirondacks, again, which is a fairly extensively remote area, there's a difference between seeing one there and then seeing one in the area that I'm at. Because again, we do have farmland here with cattle and livestock, which a cougar around here would cause a big problem, probably.
Oh yeah, it's like when they introduce wolves back to an area and people.
But they're so elusive. I mean, mountain lions are so elusive, dude. And I mean, it's highly unlikely they'll stalk a human, although it has happened. I will agree. But there are more people killed by black bear every year or every 10 years than a mountain lion.
Right. Mountain lions. I think that there's been like just a handful of attacks in the entire history that we've been recording it.
Exactly.
Whereas with species that evolved alongside humans, like leopards, we're just prey to them. They just see humans as prey because as long as they've been evolved to live, there's been human prey there for them to eat. Lions too, and tigers, natural predators of humans, but jaguars and mountain lions, there were no humans when they were evolving in North and South America. So they're very weary of us, and we've always been dangerous enough to kill them. So they don't have as much of a drive to feed on us. But
yeah, I agree. I mean, recently, I say recently, but the past year, that video that came out from the guy, he was just walking down a trail or a road, and he came across cubs, like mountain lion cubs, I guess would you call them?
They're cubs. Uh-huh.
Yeah, and then the mama came out and chased them away, but she did not. She bluff charged him basically, and he had the phone out the whole time. He never thought to pick up a rock and throw it at her. He should have gotten all primate on her, man, and primitive, but
jumping and flailing his arms around.
Yeah, and she, I mean, she
Yeah.
was doing the like, hey, I'm big, I'm scary, I'm a big cat, but she never attacked him. She never actually laid a paw on him, and so they're highly unlikely to actually attack a human. Although it has happened. That has happened.
Oh, I wish I could see some mountain lion cubs, but I don't want to deal with Mama.
Yeah, exactly. That's the price you have to pay.
They are
So
adorable.
unless you go to like a sanctuary or something where you can see them, through some plexiglass, you know.
I've always said I'm gonna die trying to pet something I shouldn't be petting.
That's
just,
not good. That's not
that's
good.
just my fate. I'm gonna be like,
And-
oh my gosh, I
you
want to
should-
pet that alligator.
And now you're doing magic tricks with your praying mantis. I love
Yeah,
it. Like you're
should-
David Blaine over here.
I hypnotize them. It's easy to do, but some animals are simpler than others and easier to manipulate. Praying
that's
mantises are
That's what
some
my
of my
wife says
favorites.
about me.
So I think that we could probably speculate that there should be some insect protein in the Sasquatch diet, right?
I'm sure they're probably like Ernie said. We can surmise that being as large as they are and et cetera, and living the way that they live, they would almost certainly have to be omnivores, and they would be very similar to us in that they would take advantage of any kind of food source. Insects, frogs, toads, lizards, rabbits, you name it. If it walks, crawls, flies, swims, or grows in the ground, as long as it's not poisonous to them, they're probably eating it.
Yeah, you could do pretty well on a foraging diet. A human can anyway, and I do not dispute that that within a proper old growth forest that there's plenty of resources there. But with the way that the old growth forest has dwindled down, I don't know if it could keep a population sustained in isolation. I think the temptation to come out of the forest and raid crops and stuff it'd just be too with dwindling resources would be so much of a push to do that. If it came down to go steal food from the dangerous humans or starve to death. But
well, there have been reports of them actually, and I forget the guy's name, but there's actually a pretty famous picture. And I wasn't there. I can't tell exactly what's in the picture. But the guy says that, hey, you know what? This apple tree, apples don't disappear all the apples off of one tree don't disappear within one night. When it comes to deer, and I actually have a photo of this thing that they think, and it was possibly eating apples at the time. So. And I'm sure that's not the only one, but there have been reports of them doing things like that: apple orchards, raiding trees, stripping them bare of apples.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Man, I used to live below this apple orchard. I live like in the Mississippi Valley, and it was up on the bluffs, like above our house. There was just acres and acres of apple orchards, and the birds would be the biggest problem that we would run into with stripping the trees, and the problem is they do that way before the fruit was ready for human consumption. So, but your speculation is that they would eat the fruit only when it was ripened to the point where a human would eat it, because you said diet similar to our own. The raiding orchards is what you would expect.
Yeah. And it's been, like I said, it has been reported. I mean, I've had people, and if you can call them credible, and I think that they are, because they don't have a reason they wouldn't have no reason to make up something. But I've had people tell me that, hey, they've been raiding my fields for years. You know,
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So there'd be almost an economic impact there to have them recognized as a
Absolutely.
pest species.
Sorta. I mean, I'll tell you this, Brian, and Ernie can elaborate on this as well, because me and Ernie kind of live in the upper rural areas, outside, way outside the big city.
Mhm.
And it's a different culture. Uh, some people know what's going on. They know there's something going on, and they won't talk about it. It's
Mhm.
they'll put a lid on it, and it's kind of it's its own strange thing, man. Is like these, especially the old timers, let's just say, they know what's going on, and they put up with things to a certain degree. But there's kind of a, leave them alone, they'll leave you alone, sort of kind of mentality.
Yeah.
It's very much a cultural thing, and it just kind of adds to the whole, like, what's going on here, kind of aspect. Like, Ernie, if you could elaborate, because you know better than me. You've been in
Well,
those areas more than I have.
generally speaking, I think in rural areas alone, I mean, most folks that we know about who have come forward and said, I had a Sasquatch encounter, most of them didn't necessarily want to come forward. And they knew that they would possibly stand to be ridiculed. They knew that lots of folks might not believe them. So, for every person that we know about, whether they got heckled or not, how many folks have had encounters that have said nothing, that
Mhm.
have not called anyone about it, haven't logged it anywhere? In our particular area in the Appalachians, the religion, especially in the southern part, is just so ingrained that that's another reason for people, especially hunters, outdoorsmen who are also going to church, and to not say that they are seeing big hairy boogers out in the woods.
Right.
So there are a lot of reasons for folks in the southern Appalachians, especially in the rural areas, the rural folks who hunt and fish and go to church, to maybe not say anything.
Yeah.
So there's just no telling how many more folks we never hear about may also be having these experiences. How would you feel about that, Joe? Me saying that, not having had an encounter myself, deciding
Uh,
myself.
I'm sorry. What was the question?
Um,
Just how
well,
you were able to
you
come to
obviously
grips.
you're happy about having had your side. Well, I don't know. I'm not
Oh,
putting words in your mouth, but you've come forward. At least you've told people about it. But would you think that for every person that does come out and make an official report or call somebody or whatever, would you think that there probably are lots more that don't come forward, that don't
oh,
say anything?
absolutely, absolutely. I think. I mean, I never would have. I never would have probably said anything about mine. Um, Originally, tell you the truth.
Have you
Um,
experienced like
the,
social backlash about it?
no, wasn't that. But the fact that I had my well, this sounds stupid, but the fact that I had my phone in my back pocket at the time this was happening, and I got no video or pictures at all, and it was there, and I mean, I wasn't, I have no way to prove that this even happened. So, was I originally going to tell anybody? No, I wasn't going to. Um, and I mean, I didn't even tell my wife for a while. And I mean,
Mm,
she was probably the first one I told,
mm.
and she's a
How
skeptic.
long
So
after, if you don't mind me asking, how long after the sighting did you did you tell the first person, which you're saying was your wife? How long after
Probably-
the sighting?
Probably 3 months or so, I guess.
Oh,
Wow.
And
wow.
the only reason is because I'm like, man, I got to that point to where I was like, you know what? I got to tell somebody.
Mm.
I got to tell somebody. Now with her, she's always Molly the skeptic. And if it was, well, how does that? She was like, well, I believe she doesn't believe me. Okay. And she likes to phrase it very politely because she's her mother was a New Englander who has that New England. It has to be rather polite in your way of phrasing things, even when you're telling somebody you think they're full of shit. So her deal is, well, I believe that you believe you saw
That old,
something.
Oh,
that old saying,
really?
you know. Mhm.
So,
Mm.
but and then eventually, and that's kind of, yeah, true. That is a little disappointing. Even my own wife, I'm like, really? A2 Bruto?
That's
but,
about the best you can do with an anecdote, though. I mean,
yeah.
as far as main evidence.
But I finally did, somebody said, hey, man, could you come on my show and talk about your encounter? And I thought, you know what? Why not, man? I got to tell somebody that at least, maybe believe it, and I'm not surprised, nor am I hurt when people may not believe me. That's okay. That's fine. I understand why. But yeah, I totally agree with you. I think there's a lot and I think those are some of the valid reasons why there's probably a lot of people that don't say anything. The farmer that I said, said that, he's never told anybody that. It just blurted out because I was wearing a something Bigfoot shirt. And, he was like, Bigfoot? Ah, hell, that old boy raids my fields every year. That's what he said.
That old boy.
He's never made a report or
And
anything like that.
that's how they feel about it.
And he,
that's how we know this stuff.
He
is
said
that
he ended
there's-
up eventually putting out piles of corn for them so they'd leave the rest of it
just
alone.
leave it alone. Yeah.
And that's it. I mean, he's never
Wow.
reported it to
That's-
anybody or never
That's
had
an
anybody.
interesting proposition.
So-
That you definitely, if you're able to lay out a bargain with something like that, to
Yeah.
where say, leave my fields alone and I'll give you this pile of corn. Or whatever the crop was. I'm sorry. Did you say corn? You said
Corn.
you raised
You
a
said corn, yeah.
cornfield, but
Corn,
yeah. It's an interesting proposition that it would that the expectation was that the raider would understand that. Did the individual who made this report, did they see them raiding their fields?
Oh
'Cause
yeah.
I'm really interested in that aspect of it because
Oh,
that's what I would expect considering the state of
Yeah, dude.
North
these
America
these
right now.
people.
Yeah, that's how he knew that it was a Sasquatch because he'd seen them doing it. He's seen them in the
Yeah.
field.
Yes.
And
But
I-
he's never
Yeah.
reported it because
Yeah.
why
Here's
would he?
here's the thing, Brian.
He
which
knows
is-
what it is, right?
Yeah.
He knows what it is. He knows what it's doing. He feels this is my problem. I can deal with it. I'm the guy getting ripped off of corn, so I'm going to deal with this the best way I can.
Yeah.
It's not a deal where, let me call a Sasquatch investigator to investigate whether this really is a Sasquatch, because hey, the man can see it himself,
Yeah. So Brian, yeah. So there's this element that again, people don't know. Like we've discovered this element of people in rural areas that they don't go online to report their stuff like other people do. They just deal with it. Like there's this thing happening to them that they just have to deal with. It's on their property. And they don't feel the need to like tell anybody about it. Just deal with it. Like Joe articulated that pretty well. It's like, hey, this is my property. And so, yeah, so whatever that guy decided he was going to bargain with the harassment going on with his stuff, and it worked out. And he's not concerned with like coming to you and providing visual evidence, or me and providing visual evidence, or coming on my show, or having anything to do
I-
with the
I do
online
hope-
community. These
I do
people are
hope
just,
that each-
they're just dealing with what they deal with these things. And that's a huge element of this phenomena. I promise you, it is.
But it's podcasts like this and this age that we're in, and also just the fact that there's always younger folks coming along. There's newer generations coming into those farms and into those orchards and all that kind of stuff. And I'm hoping that eventually there will just be sort of a critical mass point at which a whole lot more people do feel comfortable coming forward and maybe help tilt the balance a little bit more in favor of getting more scientists and more funding looking at this.
I think that if anything good came out of this pandemic situation, it's that it forced people to get familiar with this kind of technology where we can interface, where we all now interfacing. You know, we're all over the country. The four of us right now are, well, I think we're all east of the Mississippi, right? But other than that, we're basically the four corners of Eastern North America. And we're just chatting away tonight. And the fact that these people, these, like what Ernie was saying, these generations of rural folk that are now also, they've been forced to do this too. People all over have been forced to do this, whether it's, you know, it's rural and their kids are doing Zoom meetings and stuff for school, everywhere. So everybody's now has this technology in their home, and everybody has a camera on them now. So yeah, it seems like this should be a golden age for this type of research, and that things should be popping out new, better recordings and better source sightings and things like that, where we can all instantly, like within an hour of your sighting, you could interface with all these different people and set up cameras so that they can, you know, observe your property and whatnot. Because it's cheap to do that stuff now. This really has pushed the technology to where we can do that. So,
Yeah.
what do you guys think?
Well,
I agree.
I don't think I know. I know the technology that's going to move the ball downfield greatly with real observations of these things, to the point where real professionals look at those observations and go, "Holy shit, we got something here, guys." And for me, that's aerial thermal drone, platforms are going, or they will pan out. It will pan out.
Why don't we see more on trail cams? That's always been a sticking point for me. Is it's like
yeah, I think the trail cam thing is that there's something about the IR that is in play. So the infrared triggers, there's something about that that's in play. Some speculate that Bigfoot can see the IR, and that's just speculation. But there's a delay. So I mean, it's like if you're walking through the woods and you see a trail cam strapped around a camera, Brian, you're gonna see that. Like, you're gonna see it with your own eyes. That unnatural device. And so it's I think it's really something along those lines. But at the end of the day, we don't really know. We can only speculate.
Yeah.
And I think that's actually pretty good speculation, is that they just kind of see them, either way.
Well, it circles back to the guy making the bargain with it, though. So that gentleman, he's got an arrangement there where he could set up a camera, right? I mean, it's on his property. They would be used to his stuff being on his property and wouldn't be, oh, that camera's off-putting, because there's his farm equipment, his processing machinery, his home, all that stuff is on his property already. So they'd be familiar with, okay, this is this guy's stuff, and not necessarily off-put by it and still come get their corn offering. And you could set up something like that in that situation.
Right. It just depends on who you are. Like, some people aren't interested in that. Like, that's the thing. Right. There's actually, there's a lot of trail cams out in the woods for other purposes, And so what we have to speculate, given the fact that, yeah, you're right, there's a lack of data there captured. So we can only speculate, well, there's a reason for that. Here's why, or why we think.
Right.
So if somebody wants to purposely, there's not a lot of people purposely trying to trick them. If that makes any sense, Brian.
Yeah.
There's only a handful of
But-
people in this world trying to trick them, and they are failing. I mean, there's not enough professionals, dude.
So far.
Yeah.
And what you're talking about with the IR. Now we also are speculating on the visual range thing.
Yeah, we are.
There may be several things that may trigger. For example, I mean, Jeff Harding brings it up. We have some scientific experiment going on, I guess, if you want to call it that, on perhaps like caribou and etc. seeing in UV. Perhaps
seeing
these things might see in UV.
Yeah.
And guess what? Cameras, lenses have a UV coating.
And IR would show
So
up
they
like
may
a laser beam. Yeah.
also be seeing the IR. I mean the UV. It might show up like a big, however it shows up. I can't see in UV.
So the sticking point that I have with that is that the primates, the apes, lack a how you say it, tapetum lucidium, or the layer of the eye that makes animals' eyes shine in the dark.
Nocturnal, right?
Yeah,
right.
So that's a distinctive feature of that the apes lost a long time ago.
True.
And
including us.
Yeah,
Well,
we don't have it either, right? And
may have never had it.
and
But,
and as far as I know, there's no animal that sees that ultraviolet wavelength that naturally, without artificial ultraviolet light, that can naturally see that doesn't have that part of the eye.
right. And Sasquatch may.
They may.
That is why that they speculate, because people have caught these things that are eye shine. That
there's eye shine.
Yeah,
reports
and
that
so
happen in you,
and there may be an evolutionary reason for that with them. If
we
they
don't know.
are,
Like,
And
if
hey, Brian, bro, listen, I wish I could drag a body into your garage tomorrow, and
Yeah.
you and I could check all that out with
Yeah.
with the right professionals. It's just
Right.
obviously, dude, that's not where we're at. That's a point of frustration.
Right.
The eye shine is interesting, though. It does go against the, as far as what I'm familiar with, what they call the phylogeny of what we're expecting what we're speculating that this could be, which is a hominid, right? A maybe even within the genus Homo.
Some sort of hominin. Yeah.
So then you say, okay, so there's a distinctive feature that evolved, like our inability to produce our own vitamin D, for instance, things like that. There are homologies among all of the apes. Then this thing with the eye is one of those. So we wouldn't expect, it's not our expectation that this would be a creature that would have an eye shine. It's just an interesting observation. And the way evolution is the drivers of evolution is going to work. Once you lose something like that, it's not usually something that, not saying it can't, or even can't come back in a different way, because it's evolved independently. Like spiders, their tapetum lucidium, I hope I'm saying that right, is evolved completely different, completely different set of genes than ours is, but it serves the same function. So it can evolve back
it's worth
in a short time.
noting for.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Ernie,
well, it's worth noting for anyone that's just not familiar with the overall history that first of all, I've always been bothered by the whole lack of game camera pictures and footage. But again, because this phenomenon persists of credible people citing these things, you have to wonder, well, how can that be that we can not get them on the cameras, but for whatever reason that is. And the reports of different color eye shine, mostly red, and people swearing that the eyes were self-luminescent, self-illuminating, in a reddish color, has been reported, and I don't know what the percentage would be, but it's been a steady percentage of
Yeah,
of,
there's enough. There's
many
enough of
reports
it.
since the
Yeah.
beginning.
Life is a flyway.
Something's going
In the live chat.
on there.
I just wanted to say that you're right. Tarsiers are
Tarsiers,
our
yeah.
closest, are our most our closest common ancestor with the rest of life that has that feature in its eye. So yeah, that is
Yeah.
true. Tarsiers.
Yep.
Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah, so
Thank
there's something there.
Yeah.
Yeah, the eyes that self illuminate, I have a problem with that. The eye shine, the possibility of a tapetum lucidum, and I don't say it right either, Brian. So, I think that's more
Where's Vaughn?
more plausible, evolutionary wise, because you don't see any mammal at all that presents that at all. Self-illuminating.
Bioluminescence.
I
Yeah,
agree.
Yeah.
with
Yeah,
the eyes.
yeah.
That's what the
There's-
reports.
Yeah, and we're not
That's
even
what the
talking about
reports
that.
document.
Yeah.
That is more of like a supernatural kind of thing. It sounds.
Yeah,
like,
I think
when
so.
when
And
read those
and it
reports.
may be just a misinterpretation of what somebody's seeing too, as far as I'm concerned. But I mean, I don't have the answer to that. Self-illuminating eyes. I've not seen that. I have seen eyes shine.
Yeah.
But it was because there was light reflecting from the eyes because of that particular biological.
Well, yeah,
thing.
I know, I mean, and somebody get me Vaughn. Tim, get me Vaughn on the phone right now. Vaughn always talks about because he got a pretty good look at the eyes in light, and he talks about a weird amber, almost star bit, like kind of thing going on. I don't know. He would have to talk about it. I don't do it justice. So, I don't know.
Well, that's just that, yeah. And the history of reports chronicles people saying that they have seen that over and over and
Yeah, there's.
over
I mean,
again.
the eye shine thing. Eye shine thing is almost as known as the wood knock thing.
I got this whole book of red-eyed monsters here.
And look at who's on the cover.
What?
Yeah, we got a big guy right there. Alien Animals. This is it's an old book. I had this when I was a kid. And
Interesting.
it makes like an interdimensional claim about Sasquatch that they're not from this dimension, and
Not necessarily.
Well, I mean,
don't
clearly
think-
they're
I don't
not.
think it would have to. But
Yeah,
whether
I
it does
mean-
or not, that's what the reports chronicle for a long time.
Well, Ernie. I mean,
Not in
I know
every
this.
case, but
Yeah, like Ernie knows for a fact that Sasquatch comes from planet Hairtron. Hairtron.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so clearly they come from planet Hairtron, and they just meet our definition of a primate, Brian. So yeah, we've actually already got it figured out. So
Oh, you already figured it out?
yeah,
Dude.
I mean, it's planet Hairtron.
Yeah, Planet Hairtron. I didn't even consider that when I was evaluating this evidence. I didn't even
And
consider.
well, I
Planet
mean, and
Hairtron.
it especially Brian, if you didn't do your calculations right to include the flying spaghetti monster,
Oh yeah.
then you're way off, bro.
Yeah.
You do like, why are you even here?
Yeah.
You shouldn't
Well,
even be talking to
I
us.
always
Yeah.
take
And so
consideration.
there you have it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And look, Pat is the only other person that I know of besides myself that has a BFD in Bigfootery. So You
The
know,
BFD.
we couldn't get PhDs, so but we got BFDs.
We tried, Brian.
Um,
We tried, but
I got
yeah,
You'll get there.
yeah. Thanks,
It's a-
bro.
it-
yeah, I'm
it's-
trying. I'm
It's a
trying.
research and it's a field in its infancy. So there'll be PhDs in it.
Hey,
in no time.
hey, bro. We need professionals, man.
Yeah.
absolutely, yeah.
You can join us anytime you want, man.
We need professionals.
We like your mind. I know you're a pharmaceutical guy professionally.
Oh yeah. That's what I do for the boring day job stuff. But
All right,
I
so what is it going to take to trank 800 800-pound primate? Like maybe you could be useful there. Like,
you know what?
I want to know
Great
that.
minds think alike,
Yeah, I
Pat.
wanna
I was
know.
about to
I
say
really
that
do.
same thing. So you're the guy we go to when we
all right,
find
all
one,
right, all right,
and
all
we
right,
need to
Brian, you're in the
sedate
hot seat.
it, right?
Go.
you're gonna knock out I feel like that this could be used against me in a court case.
All right, let's just say hypothetically in the world of magical thinking. All right,
Yeah.
fair enough.
Yeah.
Oh
Go.
yeah. I don't know. I think that probably an opioid would be the best option to go down if you could somehow. I don't want to say poison. Well, you would be poisoning it though, but you wanted to consume it. But yeah, that's what they generally use for
tranquilizing large animals.
Keeping
I mean, we can just say that, yeah, what would it take to tranquilize a 1,200-pound unicorn? And that way, if Sasquatch is taken out, you'll never be sued because we're talking about unicorns, man.
Right.
That's
You're
all
talking
we're
about the metabolism of a creature. As far as dosing goes, I wouldn't even be able to begin to
Right.
guess.
Right.
Because what do you compare it to a bear? But a bear has a metabolism that's really fast for a couple months and then slows to a standstill for several months.
Yeah.
In something that's active year round like this wouldn't necessarily follow that pattern. There's so much. Yeah, there is.
But in such respect or such situations, I've often thought, well, if people want to kill one to prove that they exist, and I'm not against or for that. I'm saying if people want to do this and would do it if they could, then is that in and of itself unethical? And whether it is or not, is it then also unethical in the manner in which you do it? And I say it's irrelevant. If you have a goal and you think that having a dead one there is going to prove it, then freaking poison. Then go unethical. Who the hell says you have to be ethical to go hunt unicorn? There are no laws yet, except of course in Skamania County. But give me a break. It's like a misdemeanor or something, and it's just a fun little thing for
that's
tourists.
just for show.
Anyway,
that's just for show. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. That's what I just said. It's a fun little thing for tourists, but I'm just saying that generally speaking, if they cut one in half with a 50 cal machine gun from a helicopter and then got the lower half of the body on the CNN by the end of the day, I don't care how it happens. And if I'm okay with that, why am I not okay with poisoning one to death so that you can haul it in front of TV cameras? Then yes, then do that. What the hell is ethical about how you unethically kill something that might turn out to be one of the most, well, anyway.
Well, I said that the other night.
I'm actually all for it.
I said it the other night when we were
for it.
all talking about it when Orge was on, that killing one is going to give you the option to protect all of them, because once you can prove that it exists, you can lobby for protection.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well,
I believe that.
Hey, Pat. Hey, Joe.
It stands to reason.
hey,
In all logical scenarios, it stands to reason.
Hey, Alan. Welcome to the stream. There might be a little bit of a delay.
yeah. Well, you know what? Just to interject on
Hey,
that.
Pat.
I mean,
Really love your show.
Yeah, there's definitely a delay. So Alan, there's a delay happening, just so you know. Okay. You there? Check, check. 1, 2.
No worries, Pat. I'm here.
Okay, that's all right. That was better. Joe, go ahead with your thought.
Oh, I was just, just to interject in that, I get where you're coming from there and what you're saying. And Ernie, absolutely makes sense, right? Personally, though, on a personal level, had I been armed and saw what I saw and been able to take a shot, would I have done it? No, I wouldn't have. But that's me, right?
No, dude, we understand that. Ernie and I would not do that either. I seriously doubt it.
No,
I
but
mean, if
that's
somebody
that's
does,
also a different situation. That's an unexpected
right.
encounter versus what I'm talking about is people going out aggressively
Right.
with the intent of trying to kill one for proof.
right,
So yeah.
right. Well, if somebody wants to do that, I'm not going to, and actually does do it. I mean, there has been claims of people saying they shot and killed one. I've not seen evidence of that yet. But if somebody does it,
No
am I going to
worries.
be like, well, you're a dirtbag for doing it? No, I'm not going to, I'm not going to tear a person apart that does do that if that's what
there
would
is.
prove it to the world.
Yep.
But I wouldn't recommend it,
I'm still here. I'm checking in.
because you don't know, like you said, it's a unicorn, man. What if it's so close to us that you actually have done this, but you've pretty much just committed murder, basically, right? I mean, there's a lot of philosophical
I don't
stuff
think
about that.
I don't think that retroactively that society would ever, the justice system would ever go back and say, well, you should have known better because this is obviously going to be yada, yada, yada. Of course not. The first person that pulls it off, I don't care how unethical it is, has done it.
Right.
Period. However it gets done. It's one. That's the idea. So
yeah. And again, it would.
And no, once something like that happens, there's not going to be. There won't be hundreds of hunters. Sorry, to step on you. There won't be just thousands of hunters descending on the forest, somehow endangering these things.
A lot of feedback.
They're not endangered now, apparently. So yeah.
Yeah. No shit. Good point.
Yeah, they would get that protection though if someone brought one and said, "Hey, these things exist and there's not very many of them." They would get protection.
Say that again. Yes, I think they would. That would get them protection. Yes.
Yeah, possibly. I mean,
I believe so.
that's actually a process. So, eventually, maybe. I mean,
it's
I don't know.
a process, but
yeah.
I think at a state
this would
level,
be a pretty big one.
Yeah, on the state level,
this ain't just going to be a spotted owl story,
right?
Yeah,
or spotted owl.
And I do hate the thought of Bigfoot ever being proven in that very strong way, and then politicized, immediately politicized.
Oh,
I don't like that. I fucking hate that. It shouldn't. Bigfoot should never be political. That's why I don't talk about politics on this show. But we all know how things work.
Well,
right?
how would it? Are you suggesting that if a full discovery disclosure to the public would somehow be politicized?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It'd become a human rights topic, wouldn't it? Whether
maybe
to extend human rights to
depending on what they end up being, yeah,
at least at least the animal rights. I mean,
right.
And so yeah, spotted owl kind of thing, or but yeah, maybe if they want to make a human, but they're not human, dude. They're not human beings. They would be like just another hominid, like Neanderthal, That's what they are.
Or I mean, Neanderthal is in Homo neanderthalis, or Neanderthalensis. The Homo means human, though. I mean,
Right.
they are
Yeah,
human.
yeah, but I mean, I just say human is in the modern day kind of understanding of like you, me, and everyone.
Yeah, I don't think they're Homo
Yeah.
sapiens.
Yeah, we wear clothes. We build fucking
Well, they're not. They're
spaceships.
hominid.
Yeah, hominin is the where I would put it.
Yeah. So hey, all.
There are
Can you
plenty
guys
of
hear me?
examples of
Yeah.
the
Yeah, let's give. I just brought Alan back in again. Let's give Alan a chance to say his mind. Go ahead, Alan.
Yeah. So on, Joe, Pat. Thank you for letting me be on. Love your shows and your guests.
you.
So, the one thing that I want to go ahead and put in is I'm from Washington State, and you guys were dealing with a subject that is dealing down in the South that they don't talk about, which I have friends and other groups, which kind of like the outlaw groups, which they talk about from the beginning in the 50s and 60s. They never talked about. They had different names for them, but eventually came out as the boogers. And down in that particular part, they had farmers that wouldn't talk about with them coming on the property, stealing the chickens, stealing cattle or whatever. They just live with it, and they gave them the cattle feed or salt lick, something like that, just to pacify them. They've been around in lore down in that particular area for a long time. Now, my experience is I was not I would say I was a skeptic. When I lived down in Arizona, of course, I worked for a telephone company, and you're sitting there and I'm doing the lines, and all of a sudden in Arizona, you're seeing 3, 4, 5 Bigfoots cross the road out over on the Mongolian Rim. And then I became involved with Mitch Waite, who has since passed, and worked with him and with the Arizona Bigfoot. So there are a lot of different things. And then my wife's from Washington. I moved back to Washington. And then, I've doing Bigfooting on and off. But I work for a lot of more of the private owners up in northern Washington, Snohomish County. And I've worked with the property owners, kind of similar situation. And you get to the same scenario. What you get was they're not leaving. So if you want to defer their food source, you're dealing something where you have to do a compromise. And that is an example of dealing with providing a food source for them is not a reasonable thing. But, there are more foods up here in Washington State where it's different. But the bottom line is the property owner eventually, it's more of a farming sort of situation, deal something differently where you have to appease them in order to keep them away from your livestock or from your property. And from your previous discussion, and I'm sorry for the gentleman in the lower right-hand corner, I'm sorry I forgot your name, but the bottom line is that he brings up a valid point, and Joe, as you do as well, and so on, Pat, that is kind of a compromise.
Yeah, and some of that comes
absolutely.
from, and this is not something that is
It's
totally
not unusual, Pat.
unheard of among other people too, not just farmers. I bring this to the attention. My mentor when I was a young man, Walter, told me that the Iroquois, who he was Seneca, the Iroquois gave them fish to keep them from coming into the place at night and stealing fish off the drying racks. Had a big problem with that.
Yep.
And so they would leave them offerings of fish, so they'd stop doing that. So that kind of thing, making
I've read
kind
that.
of a bargain with these species is not unheard of. So that farmer that told me that, I think the thought that probably went through my head was, I think that's something Walter would have done. you know, hey, stop stealing my corn. Here's a whole bunch for you. Just leave the rest of it alone. And it's the same thing. It's the same way that he was telling me about the fish and the drying racks. Here's a bunch of fish. Leave ours alone.
Yeah, but down in the South, it
I
was
have
kind of
read
like
that.
yeah, in down in the South, in where you're from, sir, it's kind of been the more coming out and talking about it. But during the 50s and 60s, they wouldn't talk about it. The kids say, "Oh, I saw something strange out in the field," or I've heard this, woo sound. And they just say, "Oh, it's okay." It's kind of, that was kind of the way that they went with it and worked with it. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, it's all kind of like
Yeah.
the norm. It could be the norm for some of them.
Yeah.
That's the amazing part. Like, even more so than just the direct anecdotal accounts we hear, like Joe's. There's this deeper layer there that I'd love to get across to people, and they understand that deeper layer where it's like, these country folk, these rural people, just kind of, they understand what they're dealing with. They don't want to make it known to the world. They just want to deal with it the way they deal with it. And
It's a matter of fact for
Yeah.
a lot of them, and
Yeah.
that's why. And that's Ernie brought that up earlier. I mean, that's why I think that I agree with him. I think there's probably more people that do actually see them or know that they exist, but they don't say anything because why would they, right? I mean,
maybe by the millions, the millions.
So
Guys, I'm gonna dip. It's been fun hanging out, but I gotta get some sleep.
oh, it's great seeing you, Brian.
Yeah, thanks, Brian, and you're welcome back
Thanks, Brian.
anytime, bro.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. Thank
But
you.
yeah, so I mean, and people, there are people that deal with it very matter of factly. I've, like I said, over the years, I've spoken to quite a few people. You'd be surprised at how many times that I've run across people that would tell me something, not that they were seeking out anybody to actually tell anything to. It just came out. And then it came out as a very matter of fact thing, Oh yeah, yeah. I see them down
Well,
such and such all the time.
yeah. Part of the problem, though, that up here that is more of an issue more than anything else is you're seeing less and less of that, and you're becoming to more. And again, you have to be obviously as a researcher, you have to be more objective. Brent, as an example, the tall ones, is a very good objective investigator.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times it's just more of homeless people on property.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, good point. I mean, it's kind of a weird thing though. Like it goes so much deeper than the skeptics realize. And that's why I'm here.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
I'm here to be that guy, that in between guy who says, "Hey, I'm a skeptic, but I'm swimming deep in these waters. I'm not like being fooled. I'm not gullible. I can prove it.
Yeah.
Just talk to me for 15 minutes." There's something here. There's something here.
Yeah.
It's worthy of investigation. I want those professionals on board, man.
Right. And then you have to
Absolutely.
determine, you have to determine more than anything else. And that's why I like Brent a lot out here in Washington State, is he's very objective in regards to what are the facts that present themselves in regards into the person's concern.
Right.
Whether it's a landowner or it's somebody that's had a sighting, what are those factors? I mean, Joe, as an example, you're the king of the barred owls. Not every single howl that you hear out in the woods is an actual Bigfoot yell. However, I do want to digress. As an example, out here in Washington, there was a couple called the Browns over in Aberdeen. I think, or whatever it was. But the Olympic project, it was back in between 2011, 2012. The
Yes,
lead
I'm
fellow, I
familiar
think-
with who you're talking about.
Yeah. Were those sounds that they had were, and eventually they recorded a Bigfoot. It was investigated. It was determined, possibly through that thermal image, that it was possibly a Bigfoot. And then it went from, and this is how you can kind of get goaded into it, where the evidence is there, and then you deal more in fact, where a lot of their sounds that they recorded from the backyard was not. It was more of, back in Joe's territory, barred owls.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then they kind of fizzled and disappeared and fought with, which
Sorta.
goes on with the community. But
Yeah.
Joe brings up a very good point on a few of his shows, with Brent, who brought up a couple of things about the different things where he thought they had some actual sounds, and Joe had the same thing, and it just was a frickin' owl.
I'm batting 1,000 on figuring out what I've recorded so far, and none of them have been Sasquatch yet.
No, it's just more of just being fact based and dealing with reality. So,
well,
But it can happen.
and the thing is, you have to be careful when we always tell people that you have to stay objective about things. I'm a person that look, man, I am here claiming that I know these creatures exist, okay? But I'm still saying you have to be objective of what you're looking at when you're out there, and you can't read one thing into another. You may have something on a thermal that could possibly be a Sasquatch, but then be careful about reading into, then these noises are this Sasquatch, and those noises may actually just be freaking barred owls, but you're reading it into it. And then that's also where I think people have come up with this idea that and they say it like it's fact: Sasquatch imitate owls.
Yeah.
Well, okay, man, you're stretching it a bit there for me, okay?
Yeah.
Because when I hear an owl in the woods, I'm pretty damn sure it's an owl.
Yeah.
So I mean, so what I hope I'm explaining myself. So you got to be careful
you're doing well.
in reading and not reading one thing into another, and trying to make it a whole part of a narrative, because you want to stick with the facts. Okay, fact is, I got something on thermal that may be a Sasquatch. Fact, I heard these noises, but they sound like barred owls. Well, yeah. Okay, so stick with the facts. Okay, you got something on film, but you also have barred owls. You can't take that barred owls is a Sasquatch imitating barred owls.
The frustrating part that I have with a lot of researchers that might have some significant photos is they don't go and do an after investigation.
Well, that's
I call them the dumpers. And there are a couple of folks I had followed in the past when I first got into this genre, and it's like, well, if you say they're in your backyard and you have a photograph of one, or you have some film of one, para dealer, go back out and redo an investigation. 9 times out of 10, they don't do that.
Yeah,
and that's the biggest frustration I have with this field.
Yeah, and that happens a lot.
It's a big one to be upset about, because it is common. People just don't do enough good follow-up work to document what they saw. Something for scale, etc.
And I think that's the people that are more into the subject. They're not really into it about the research or the investigation of it. They're into the entertainment of it. And I am not here to say that there's anything wrong with being entertained by Bigfoot. There is nothing, absolutely nothing wrong with being entertained by Bigfoot. I myself am completely entertained by Bigfoot. I watch every bad Bigfoot movie that I possibly can. I love listening to encounter stories. Some of them, yeah, I think they're very credible. Have I heard encounter stories that I don't believe? Yeah. If I'd heard mine, somebody told me mine, I probably would be like, yeah, I don't know. Depends on where it's coming from, but you get what my drift. So
Yeah.
the
Right.
entertainment part of Bigfoot, no problem. But you know what? I mean, at least be honest about it. Be like, hey, we're just here to entertain. Don't be like, I'm researching and here's a blob squatch, and this proves that I have stuff around where I'm at. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
No, but Joe, wouldn't you think though that part of the genre is the entertainment of it?
Absolutely.
Like, I mean, besides the podcast,
Absolutely.
the Sasquatch, what was his name? They got busted. I think Brent did a good deal on it in regards to
The
his
porcupine.
claim of his. No, the Sasquatch. He ended up doing a podcast, but him and his brother
Yeah, we can't.
got outed.
We can't talk about that here. Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
anyway, my point is that it's become, for some podcasts, it's been more entertainment rather than like Pat, your show, and Joe show, and other podcasts where it's more factual based and interviewing researchers out in the field that you guys feel are legitimate and stuff, rather than just story based. And it seems like it's becoming more story based rather than just factual podcasts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that
Entertainment.
and the entertainment side, I mean, I agree with Joe, but I also have my disagreements. Like, I agree with Joe that it's there for a reason. It's because people love spooky stories, period. We will always love spooky stories. I love them too, but I will say that it is a hindrance. It does hold things back because the Bigfoot online community, which is full of entertainment and hoaxes and things like that, that hinders the actual path forward to discovery and knowledge, because it's a brick wall for the right professionals over here who look at our crazy kooky Bigfoot
I mean,
world.
yeah, I get where you're coming from
Yeah.
with that part. I mean, I do agree with you on that it probably, because of the way the culture is of
I agree.
Bigfoot, it probably does. That does probably keep more scientists, and yeah, because people. I know there's a lot of people out there probably right. Oh, we don't need scientists.
Yeah, we do.
Actually, we do.
We need
We do.
professionals, not
actually,
just
we do.
scientists, dude. Yeah,
For the
not just
people
scientists.
that are really trying to say that, look, we're not a bunch of crazies. They're really there. Yeah, we need science to step in. They have resources, and they have
Professional skill sets.
They have finances, professional skill sets that badly need to be brought to bear on this.
Yeah.
So I do agree to you to some extent. That probably does keep them away. But
Well, I mean,
as far as it doing damage to the actual research, I don't think so much, because there's still going to be guys out there. I'll use myself. I'm not patting myself on the back. There's better investigators out there than me. I'll admit that already. There's guys out there I got mad respect for, because they come up with ideas that my little old brain wouldn't even come across sometimes. But people, the Olympic Project, I got respect for those guys. Jeff Harding, I can name off a bunch, Doug Hychak, a bunch of people.
There are a lot of researchers out there, Joe, that are out there that
they're still going to do the same thing, whether this entertainment side is there or not, I mean,
but I mean, and then there's other people that are doing harm, like
that's the difference.
And those are the ones where it's taken from research, like Dr. Johnson as an example. I'm a member of the coalition with Steven Strebert. Brent's also in that, where you're looking at for a guy that used to do just wooing or feeding, supposedly speak on his SOA project back then. And now he's taking it to a religion. And he has people, which is concerning.
A cult.
In
Yeah.
in a cult.
Yeah.
Where there are people where they come and they pay and they stay with him at his property, or his wife's property, I should say, and they go through all this mumbo jumbo, and actually some fellow
One guy died.
Yeah, one guy died as a result of that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the stuff you see as a overlapping dark cloud on this particular genre.
Yeah, that's just dangerous.
That is the dark part of the culture.
Yeah,
is that you do have, and those are not the people that I say that are okay, that I don't object to, because those are the people I do object to. The outright people that are doing it for nefarious reasons, whether it be monetary or whatever, and just hoodwinking people and taking advantage of people's interests. Yeah, that's the dark side. That is not something that's needed, and that's why some of these other channels I think are needed in here, like Nikki's channel, for that, to show these people and expose what they do.
And so there are, like I was saying, it's we're talking the world of entertainment, like you said. Pat's podcast, your podcast, and a few others are covering basically kind of an overall picture of both. You have to have a little bit of both.
Mm-hmm.
Bringing somebody on every Sunday, I saw something, it gets boring. You have to do something different in order to keep your podcast going, but keep it factual. And that's what I like about both Pat and your podcast a lot, which is, you have a conversation about the thing.
Thank
I mean, I want to be entertaining, but I also want to be informative,
Right.
So I try to do that, and so does Pat and everybody else that we associate with.
I try and sprinkle entertainment in there because I come from the entertainment industry. That's the ironic thing about all this. Like Ernie and I were professional entertainers for 20 years or more. I mean, we played in front of thousands of people, dude. I was on the world's biggest television show. I know how to fucking entertain people. But when I come to the Bigfoot world, I just kind of sprinkle in entertainment. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I really just want to have a good discussion and sprinkle everything in. But if Ernie and I wanted to, dude, I could have 50,000 subs on this channel by bringing them I'd blow Carrie away. Carrie Arnold could never hang with me in the entertainment industry because I lived the entertainment industry since
that's another story.
A teenager,
But just saying is, just as far as from what my preference is, I went from Matt's Bigfoot Outlaws, which I still think Bigfoot Outroads. He does a good job, and he talks to the Bigfooters, and he has a way of doing that. But what I like more, Pat, is we're able to have a cup of coffee with you over at a diner having breakfast and seeing what's going on. And I think that's the way you guys are presenting and bring your guests on, and that's how I enjoy that very much.
Well, that's great. That warms my heart, dude, because Ernie will tell you that Squatch Talk was born out of our campfire discussions.
Right. That's another good analogy.
Mm-hmm. That's what it was. It was it's like Ernie, dude. Dude, we talk about fucking Sasquatch for 2 hours around a campfire. Let's just take it to air, in that way. Mm-hmm. And that's how Squatch Talk was born, and I stick to that. That has never left me. That's why we were having discussion we're having now. Is we're all sitting around the campfire, man. You know.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
to be honest with you, it got. I found Joe because of the tall ones,
Mhm.
and then I think you need to bring Brent more on, either two of you. He doesn't want to do that because he's got a full-time job, but I think he's very good and very honest, and he
Oh,
kind
yeah,
of
I love
bounces
Brent.
off you two very well in discussion. But he gives me crap about it when I give him crap. I said, "You do your own podcast." He goes, "No," and then he pops up on your guys' podcast. But I'm just saying is that the way you guys bring in a conversation is like having a cup of coffee with you as a bud at a diner, and talking about topic
Mhm.
or campfire. Very good analogy, Pat.
Yeah. And that's exactly how it was born. And so I've done nothing but stick to the idea that I had for Squatch Talk in the very beginning, which was me and Ernie talking about Sasquatch around the campfire. And hopefully I'll never leave that. If I do, Ernie, knock me down a few pegs. Like don't let me get out of my
Well,
head, man. You know how I am, Ern.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know how I am. I want to see it proven in my lifetime if these things exist. So the
That would
cool
be
thing
nice.
about these campfire discussions is there's lots of others similar to it, or it's out there in the ether a whole lot more. And a
It
show
is.
like this might get other people talking about it
It
and
already
looking
has.
into it, and that
Yeah.
just means that more information can get out there. So yeah.
It
Yeah.
already
Okay.
has, dude. Yeah, it already has.
Now, if I may be remiss on this because I know it's late probably for you all and all that, and I just popped in, and maybe Joe, maybe I'll pop it on yours next Sunday. But the group that is the topic that I was into is the kill no kill. The one group, is it in?
Texas, East Texas, Nowak.
Yeah, have we heard? I haven't heard a word from them in months.
One of their members went on air tonight on a different show.
Also the other day too, he was on Out of the Shadows on Alex's. It was
Okay,
the
so
guy from
that's what
Naywak.
I'm talking
Yeah.
about. Yeah, Matt
Yeah.
Pruitt and Ernie and I know Matt, by the way.
Yeah, is there any way you can bring him on? See what's going on with that?
Maybe he's not. I don't think Matt's too happy with me right now because I criticized Nowak, and he
Well,
didn't.
wouldn't anybody?
He didn't seem to like that too much. But
What about
I have me and
Kathy's
Ernie.
husband?
Yeah, there's already a Squatch Talk episode with Matt. If you dig back far enough, that we did a show with Matt.
It's a fantastic, yeah, it's a great episode too. Matt is just truly a true wealth of information, a walking and always updating encyclopedia on this subject and every relatable
Yeah.
subject. So yeah,
Some
He
of
is, but he did not.
he
He
would be
did
my
not
go-to
take.
person.
He did not take my criticism and whack very well. I can tell you that. Because I did that on Facebook one night, and he kind of came at me about it. And honestly, I've not been able to really have a conversation with him since. I'll have Matt on anytime. Like, Matt, you're welcome here. This is the open platform. Anybody can come here. Rick Dyer, you can come here. Like whoever. Matthew Johnson, you can come here. Christopher Noel, you're welcome here anytime. So, like, those people are welcome here. Matt's welcome here anytime you want, where we can have that discussion. Yeah.
I can say Matt Johnson's readily available if you can just reach out to him through his group or through his personal email. He'll be happy to talk to you.
Yeah,
Easily.
but if he vets my show, he probably wouldn't want to come on. Right?
No, or Joe. I mean, he's an open.
Yeah.
I can tell you that. It just depends if you want him as a topic.
Well, that's it. That's the thing, and I'm glad you brought that up because I think that people get us wrong sometimes
Oh, of course they do.
in the thing, and they think that we're out to like
Bash,
bash everybody when we're not at
No.
all.
Nope. Not at all.
But we're just saying, look, man, just don't swallow everything.
No.
Leon's famous for saying this one thing about it, and I agree with him. It's like, look, if I ever put out a video and claim there's a Sasquatch in it, then release the hounds on me.
Right. Put me in the hot seat.
I am prepared for scrutiny of anything I put forward that I'm calling evidence. And people just have to understand, when we're critical of evidence, it's because we're not personally attacking that person, and people get too emotionally attached to what they're trying to put forward, and that's why all these feelings get hurt. We're not out to bash anybody, but we are out to say that, look, if you're going to put something forth as evidence, you have to expect some scrutiny. If what you have is actual evidence, then that will come out, and we'll all go, hey, all right, great job.
Now, do you know who I would pay for that would score just to see if you do scrutiny? Is the How to Hunt dude.
Oh, yeah.
That guy's
Steve Isdall. Not a big fan.
I'll reach out to him. I will reach out to him. I'll ask him to be on. I doubt he would ever do it.
Oh, no. I've heard he's been jumping, but from what I've read and from what I've heard in other groups, obviously his hunting channel's been kind of dying, and so has his, I'll read you, an unverified email, from somebody that supposedly saw a Sasquatch.
I would talk to him. Don't get me wrong. I would talk to him.
I mean, he's getting called.
But
I'm not afraid to talk to anybody.
Well, I mean, him and was it Pallades or whatever are now getting called.
Yeah,
Pallades are now guests at these Sasquatch fests across the country now.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, Pallades.
So that would be a coup,
dude. I'll have anybody on. Alan, I will. Like, dude, I'll have the president of the United States on my show if I can get him. So
right.
Yeah, I'm not afraid to talk to anybody. So, but they won't come on. I mean, I'm telling you, these people like Steve Isdall, how to hunt guy. I could reach out to him, maybe get a hold of him, maybe, and he won't come on. Like, he won't do that. Christopher Noel, like,
no, not with Porcupine at the moment.
Yeah, dude.
Some people don't want to be questioned.
They won't do it.
They don't.
I mean, I'm dying.
Take their narrative as it is, and they don't want to be questioned about it.
No, in response to Christopher Noel, I'll be honest with you, the breakdowns that I've seen from other Bigfooters in relation, it's a porcupine.
Of course it is.
It's a freaking porcupine.
Yeah, that is.
And then you try to defend it.
Yeah.
You just say, okay, maybe I made a mistake. Overall, I did like his little documentary that he did in relation to how he was thorough. But when you have that one particular section, I mean, there's some other things that are brought up. You live in a close neighborhood. It could be somebody mimicking whatever. But the final part is it's a porcupine.
Yeah.
Even when he did the thermal, it gave everybody more that was criticizing it, even more meat on it. So it's a porcupine.
Yeah. He's digging his own grave, man. I mean, I hate it for him. But again, like, hey, Christopher, why don't you come on and talk about it? Why don't we get Leon involved? Like, you know what I mean? Like, that would be more productive than anything else that you've ever fucking done in your entire YouTubing Bigfoot career. If you would just fucking listen. But it's not going to happen. It won't happen. There's no objectivity in these fucking people, man.
Now, what was Noel's big thing was the thermal that he had with the big bonfire, I think in East Texas. Was that his claim to fame?
Yeah, which was absurd then. I mean, that was
a rat.
Yeah, that was rodents in the everybody knows, like, Ernie. Hey, Ernie, what happens when you show up to a wood pile that you've left just laying there for 3 months? What do you find in the wood pile? What,
Mice.
Rats,
Ernie?
mice.
Mice.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Fucking. All right.
Yes,
Yeah.
you
They
don't
love
hear
to
me.
get up in
Oh.
They love to get up in those wood piles, man. That's exactly what that was. And he's like, "Oh, look, you can see the hand and the thumb and the face peeking out a little bit. It's a fucking mice or rat, rodent. I
Yeah.
Yeah.
hate it. I mean, but see, that's
Well,
everything.
can you
that's
guys hear
wrong.
me right now, Pat?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, we hear you, Aaron. But
Well, see,
Okay,
that's
all right.
that to
Well, I hate
me.
to interrupt. I just
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
go ahead, Joe. You're up.
now I'm gonna have to bow out, you guys.
Yeah.
But
I'm gonna wrap it
I
up soon
appreciate
anyway,
you
dude.
letting me come on, Pat.
Dude,
But
thanks
I'm
for
gonna
being
have
here,
to-
man.
Dude, it's
That's
great
I'm gonna have
meeting
to
you,
bail,
Ernie.
but nice talking to you, Joe and Alan. Huh?
Pleasure.
Yeah,
It's
but-
great to be here, and fight the good fight, man. Keep it up.
Peace in the night.
All right, guys.
Oh, man.
We're gonna
I'll see
fucking
you.
record it soon, bro. Yeah.
This way. All right. We'll see you, man. See you guys.
All right, Aaron.
Thanks.
Later, bro. But
See
yeah,
you, bro.
Joe. What
No.
you got, Joe?
Well, what I was going to say was, see, that's totally separate with a part of the entertainment part,
Right.
Because Noel, and I don't like. Again, I'm not picking on him, but from what I'm seeing, observation wise, and if I'm wrong, he can tell me I'm wrong. Again, I'm like Pat. You come talk to me
Come
and tell
on.
me why I'm wrong about this.
Let's talk.
But he's pushing a narrative, man.
Yeah.
And it's an incorrect narrative. So that is a different thing that we're talking about, and this is totally separate from people that hoax things. I'm not saying that the man's a hoaxer. I'm just saying he's mistaken. He has what is called, or what Brent referred to as, a compromised investigation.
Yes, exactly.
Exactly.
That's my whole point. If as you said, Joe, and said, you have said in past shows, if you're going to present something that's a piece of evidence, you're going to have to take the heat. Period.
Yeah, and we don't want, and what Pat was saying earlier about things like that. That kind of thing does do damage to the whole validity and credibility of an investigation into this phenomenon. When you have people out there that, and he's not the only one, I think, that's ever probably done it, but honestly, either they really think it and they really believe it themselves, and they're just want to push their narrative so much that they want to bully people basically into seeing what they're seeing and agreeing with them, and it's false information, and not even taking into consideration that, look, man, anybody with any logical sense can look at this and compare it to these other things and find out that it's not what you're saying, and that's pushing a narrative, disinformation, and that's pushing things that aren't fact.
Yeah, and delusion, and he's clearly delusional. And I don't want to pick on him, but yeah.
I'll give you an example of what I fell for.
There's something going on with your
audio
Alan.
screwed, bud.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but it sounds like Battlestar Galactica, like circa 1979. Yeah.
So is this better?
Yeah, but it's repeating for some reason.
Okay. Well, my point was, I'll wrap it up on my end if you guys can hear me, is there's a deal where I fell for a researcher. His name was Mitch Waite.
Oh, there, stop.
Over in Arizona.
You're good now. Keep going.
Okay. So anyway, I think it was 2012. He was a former Air Force officer that was involved in where he retired and then he got into Bigfooting, had a sighting and all that stuff. And then he got all his friends and family involved in it. I got involved in it, where he discovered a Bigfoot nest. His theory was that the Arizona Bigfoot would use like root balls, or they would dig in the ground and they would put branches over and form a little coverage kind of thing. And of course, back then, people didn't know. I don't know what the term would be, where you would have all these people that would, build their forts or whatever out in the woods.
Bushcrafters.
Yeah, bushcraft.
Yeah, bushcrafter. Yeah, and so later, somebody else, I think it was Bigfoot Tony, did a review on this and did a very good deal on where his claim is that he saw a baby Bigfoot in this nest. And then that carried on in his popularity. And then when you look at what Bigfoot Tony did was in the review of it, it was a Bigfoot wouldn't sit there and have a.
Oh,
Nope.
what?
He froze up.
Something going on with our new friend Alan.
Yeah.
Which I like. I like Alan.
Me too.
Alan's cool. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Man, Joe, we're meeting new people every day.
Yeah, trying to, man. Trying to. The more people that we can get to understand what we're doing, because does it bug me a little bit that people are, there's people out there that are like, oh, those guys, those logical thinkers, they're all bullies and
I hate that,
know.
dude.
It's like
Like
I'm not
that
a bully,
bugs me.
man.
I want to address that so bad.
It's like I'm not a bully, man. Just because I say that if you present something as evidence, you need to back it up.
Yeah.
I
Like-
hold myself to that standard, man. If I'm going to
Dude.
present something as evidence, I better have something to back it up.
When you take the two words critical thinkers and you put them in air quotes like this, which is what they've been doing,
Yeah, critical
thinkers,
Yeah.
then here's what you're doing. Here's the equivalency. I swear to God. Those honest people. Like, what, dude, like, that's how absurd it is for you to put critical thinking into air quotes.
Yeah.
Like, are you saying it's okay to be gullible? Are you saying it's
Right.
okay to not have a good filter on your brain to where
Right.
you can judge things properly? Like,
Right.
I mean, dude, we do that every day in life. We have to make judgments on things every day.
Absolutely. You should
know?
always question everything. Ever since I was a kid, man, I've always questioned
Well, then-
everything, man.
then
My
you're-
dad used to tell me I
you're-
talk too much because I would question everything, man. I would, even from a young age, man, I would come up with just questions and question this and why is that is why. My dad would tell me something and I'd be like, why? Well, it's because this, and this. Why? Because of this and this and this. Well, why?
Yeah. Well, why?
I mean, so I've always been very inquisitive and I got to know why. Okay. Here's some video of a Bigfoot. It's blurry, but I know it's a Bigfoot. Okay. Well, why do you know it's a Bigfoot? What?
Because it looks like one.
I mean, it's
yeah.
blurry, so you obviously can't see it. So how can you, how are you sure that that's a Bigfoot?
Right.
If you've got some backup to it and some data to go along with it to show me it's a Bigfoot, fine, it's a Bigfoot.
Dude, I mean, that's why I trust the anecdotal accounts better than I trust any kind of pictures, because you admit it yourself. You're like, I had a fucking cell phone in my back pocket, And what was the last thing you thought of doing? Pulling that damn thing out and going, yeah.
Well, and I still kick myself because I'm thinking about it now.
Don't. Yeah.
I'm like, that probably is like the one shot that I had to get anything on video, man. And I didn't do it.
Maybe.
Because chances are who knows if I'll ever lay eyes on another one again? Who knows?
Yeah, you don't know. You don't
You
know.
know, I mean,
Yeah. Hmm.
so that was probably the one shot that I had, and I didn't take it. But there were other things on my mind, like living through the rest of the day.
Yeah. Amen, brother. And you know what? I don't know that on your level, like you're saying, but I know that to a certain level.
Yeah.
I do. I get that, man. Like, oh, whoa, like, okay, I'm a primitive fucking person right now because of what's happening to me. Like, been there, been there, and you did live through it. Thank God, Joe.
Yeah.
Thank God we
Yeah.
got some Joe here. You did live through it, and you know what? You'll live through it again if it happens. And
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so. Hope it's a little
um,
further away.
um, thanks, Raptor. Hey, I gotta give Raptor his credit here. Like thanks, dude. I appreciate that, and you're
Hey,
right. Like
yeah.
I do what I can. I do what
That's
I can.
cool. That's
I
right.
do what I can. And again, sprinkle some entertainment in, right, Joe?
Absolutely.
You know, but it's not. At the end of the day, it's not an entertainment show. I'm not here to entertain you. I'm not your monkey.
Right.
But
Right.
I'm Trump. I'm not going to dance for you.
Entertainment as in keeping
Yeah.
people interested. Really.
I'm just trying to have good discussion. That's it.
Absolutely. And a
And
lot of
it's
people
paying
obviously
off.
find that interesting.
It's paying off. It's
Right.
paying off in ways that honestly, Joe, I could have never imagined, man.
Right. Because
You know?
people that are in chat are, they're always in chat. They're always coming and watching us, which I think is absolutely fabulous, man.
Yeah,
and
man.
and I will tell you, coming from the place that I came from, of actually not sharing any of this with anybody else for quite a long time, it's rather refreshing that I have people that are now basically part of the journey that I've been on. And
Mhm.
and that's pretty cool. I love it.
Yeah, I agree. Every new person I meet in the Bigfoot world that I'm like, oh, okay, like cool, we're on this sort of on the same page, whatever. It's extremely refreshing. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I got
And,
somebody to share my hobby with now.
and especially when I come across people like you, Joe, I'm like, oh, this is a cool person. Like I can have a discussion with this person. Oh, and they have their own show. Holy shit! Boom! Add it to the podcast list. Add it. I'm gonna promote this guy,
Absolutely.
and it keeps happening over and over and over again, man. And Leon, dude, Leon is stuck on this timeline of like 3 years. I'm like, no. It's happening now.
Yeah.
Get 3 years out of your freaking head, bro. It's happening right now. And embrace that,
Yeah.
Don't
Absolutely.
don't go off the rails into like some 3-year timeline, dude. What's happening now is happening now. It's growing.
Mm-hmm.
The numbers are getting bigger.
I think so.
Absolutely, dude. I mean, my channel keeps growing, not, exponentially,
Yeah.
but it keeps growing. I'm not moving backwards. We're not done. Oh, those guys are
yeah.
done.
And done in the Bigfoot world, are
Well,
we?
why does my channel keep growing?
I'm
You
not
know,
done.
what are you afraid of? What are you afraid of?
I won't be
But
done. I won't be done probably until they're pushing dirt over me, man.
yeah, man, that's when I'm done, and I won't give two shits or a fuck about you or you or you anymore because I'm
right.
done.
That's right.
So that's when I'll be done. But yeah, I'm gonna wrap it up, bro.
Absolutely. It's been cool, man.
Yeah,
It's
it
been
has
cool.
been good
Always
discussion
has.
tonight, man. I liked having
Absolutely.
Brian on and Ernie.
Absolutely.
Of course, I'm glad you got to meet Ernie.
Yeah, man. That was cool, man. That was cool.
Yeah, we'll talk with Ernie more.
I like Ernie.
whenever we can. There's a
I
lot.
like Ernie.
Yeah, dude, everybody loves Ernie.
I can tell that man's got some knowledge, man. You know, I
He's
would
been
love
around
to,
the block, bro.
Yeah, I'd love to pick his brain too. Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And we could do that too sometime, even privately. Just have good discussion, man. Pick brains.
Yeah.
But Ernie's the real deal, man. He's a real mountain man. Uh, he's my friend, and I love going out there, to that area, and just hanging out. But man, they're around, dude. They're around. It's weird. It is a weird thing, Joe. So we'll see.
Yeah, man. Yeah,
We'll
I
see
look
what.
forward to talking with him again.
Yeah. Yeah, Ernie's my pal, man. I could tell you stories. Like Ernie and I mean, we played in a band together. Like that's how we met.
Yeah.
Back in the late 90s, I'd say. And we, he and I played music together, man. So we became brothers real fast because that's what happens when you play music with somebody, dude. You bond with them real quick, and yeah, like I got some stories. He has some stories. We got stories, man.
I believe it.
Yeah. So, all right, I'm gonna wrap it up, man.
All right, brother.
Thanks everybody for watching, and appreciate every single one of you. You guys know that, and that will never change. If you're a viewer of the show, whether you love it or hate it, I still appreciate you. And I just appreciate you being here, and hopefully, man, we'll keep growing. We'll bust out into some stuff, dude. One of these days, I'm telling you, Joe, we're gonna get somewhere with this, right?
Absolutely. I'm going somewhere with it.
Somewhere. And that's it, man. I'm gonna wrap it up. Throw in the end tag. It's gonna be Benjamin tonight. Love it or hate it. This is what I got. See you guys later.
That this is part of the problem is that the people that should be doing good quality evidence aren't doing it, or they're doing very little of it. And the people, and including many skeptics, such as myself, the late Daniel Dennett, and others, were trying to help the Bigfoot community get better quality evidence, right? I'm not on your show to dismiss and debunk Bigfoot. I'm here to try and encourage people to do better quality evidence, so that way next year and next month, 10 years from now, people can say, well, either the evidence has not improved, that is, maybe there's no Bigfoot there, or whatever methods they're using aren't working at all. And so, I mean, that's the problem here, is that if these creatures are out there, then whatever methods are being used, such as the Skookumcast, aren't working. Not working, guys. We can all agree on this is not working. Whatever you're doing to find Bigfoot obviously isn't working. Why? Because you don't have one. So whatever techniques you're doing, whatever you're trying to do, drones, camping out, whatever, it ain't working. Do something different. So this is part of the problem. And by doing something different, it may mean better quality technology. It may mean better, more search teams. There's lots of things that you do differently. But at the same time, if those don't yield results, at some point you have to say, maybe it ain't there.
Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.